And welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast. Your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on cagematch.net. I'm your host, STRIGGA. He is my co-host, my good friend Dylan. And we are here on our second favorite, or even the most favorite episode of the year. I never can really decide because it's always so fun to do these. It's definitely in the top 2 of the shows that we do every single year now. It's the half-year awards, Dylan, and we have a lot of votes. The turnaround has been great, and we're happily going to talk about some of these results that we got.
That's correct. It's a big episode. Looking back at the first half of the year, and I always say the half-year awards are great. I would say the half-year awards and the year-end awards serve 2 different purposes, but connected. I think the half-year awards is great because these votes and the people who have won in the half year, we're going to be able to look at the end of the year awards, and we're going to see, first of all, especially for something like Match of the Year, I think it's very important to have these kind of, like this kind of show, because a lot of times the first half of the year, there's so much in this entire world that goes by so fast. You know, it's always a what have you done for me lately world we live in. So sometimes if something happened early in the year, it can get forgotten. So I think it's important to keep these kind of things in mind, and it gives us some fun things. There's going to be some awards here where so-and-so got a ton of votes in the half-year awards, and by the end of the year, they're going to be dropped off entirely, and we're going to be thinking, what? Like people like so-and-so in the first half of the year? And it's going to be very fun to look at it that way as well. And some other stuff, and it's always good to be a part of any kind of award, and it's good to recognize what they did for the first half of the year, and it's just a lot of fun to talk about. Everybody likes a list and awards and things like that. It gives us some fun banter opportunities going forward. So I'm into it, and I cannot wait to talk about the results and give our picks as well, which is a very vital part of the show.
And the most important part about it is that this is not a New Japan Pro Wrestling half-year award or a Stardom half-year award. It's a comprehensive look at the entire scene of Japanese pro wrestling, and I think we'll discuss a lot of different wrestlers from a lot of different promotions in a lot of different aspects of the game that we love so much. And why don't we just head right into it here, Dylan? We have 12 categories this time. We're thrown out the most underrated award, even though I will make a honorable mention for a non-existent award anymore. But first of all, the traditional start for our awards is always the award for the best foreigner, the Stan Hansen Award. And I want to say, Dylan, in the last couple of years, specifically, I want to say in the last 12 months, there have been a lot of wrestlers coming into Japan, and not necessarily only to the big promotions, but to smaller ones. For example, Kyushu Pro, they use a lot of different talent coming from America and also from Europe. And also Big Japan Pro Wrestling has seen an influx of talent from Europe and from America in the last couple of months, in the last couple of years. And I want to say development of the yen and the falling of the yen in comparison to the euro must have been very important for wrestlers from Europe, for independent wrestlers from Europe to come into Japan, because I want to guess that living is much more affordable when you look at the yen in comparison to last year has dropped off by 11% in comparison to the euro. And if you go to the 3-year comparison, the yen has lost 1/4 of its value, and that's incredibly significant For the Japanese, of course, that's tough, and that's why, for example, they gave away matches like Naito and Moxley twice to the US to make some money that is actually worth a lot from their standpoint. So we see a lot of wrestlers not only from Europe, not only from the US, but also from Australia coming in to Japan. And one of them that has been coming to Japan, he was on a second tour to Japan this year, has been the Big Japan Junior Heavyweight Champion. I want to give a shout out to him here. Enda Kara, a great wrestler from Sweden who has been working in the Big Japan Junior division. I always enjoy his matches tremendously. Great guy. Another one who came in from China and who has been doing commentary for Wrestle Universe, for TGPW, has been Gaia Hawks. I've been watching some of his matches lately as well, and he's really good. I enjoy his matches that he had in... what did I watch? Basara did I watch recently. Yes, great guy too. And another honorable mention this time, because he has been GHC heavyweight champion, but he won the belt and then was gone for 2 months. So I couldn't really go with Leonard Dr. Wagner Jr., but I still want to give him a shout out because he is the first non-Japanese GHC heavyweight champion in history, and that is a significant...
well, that's not true, but he is the first Mexican GHC heavyweight champion.
I'm sorry, I had Eddie Edwards.
Yeah. You're
right. But... yeah, what do you think about all these wrestlers coming into Japan recently?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Gaia Hawks as well. He's another guy, and even in Kyushu Pro, you didn't mention it, Jetway. Those guys are from Taiwan, and we saw New Japan had the show in Taiwan earlier this year as well, and that's something that maybe they're looking. I think they said that in one of their press conferences. They wanted to have. More of an extent in the surrounding areas like a Taiwan, and we're seeing people from Singapore come in and stuff like that. So if they could get a nice vision for like places like Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, wherever, I think that would be a great thing for them. And I like Jetway is really talented. I'm a fan of his, and Guy Hawks looks pretty good. I haven't seen a ton of him because he wrestles in kind of like deep indies, but I have seen him
for Freedoms too.
Oh yeah, he had like one match there, or a couple of matches this year, more than one. He's a really good talent. So shout out to Gaia Hawks. Hopefully they all come in and do some big things there. And obviously the foreigners. I mean, I would love to pull up, which I'm doing right now. In fact, I would love to pull up like the awards of the past, so to speak, when it comes to these, because I don't feel like there's a ton more than usual. I think everybody's always considered Japan like this. I mean, certain wrestlers, it's like a mythical place almost. Like you're a dream. I mean, I would know this because I felt this way myself, that it's like this dream place you could go and, you could have this amazing run. There's so much history when it comes to Japanese pro wrestling for everybody that watches it and has followed it over the years. And I think that still continues despite the economical situation, which, straight up, I will say this, I have never once, I always say when we come into like life situations with Japan on this show, I always say I am not Japanese, so I cannot have the complete insight that if I was Japanese and lived there, but I definitely, even more than that, are equally true, is that I have never been an economist, like some kind of economy expert or businessman. I have never been that. So I know that the end's down. I know that they want foreign money. A lot of these bigger companies, that's true, and it has led to that. But it hasn't impacted anything too much. I can only speculate on the living situations. But we have gotten a lot of great foreigners that have come in, and they always add a great flavor into Japanese wrestling for sure. Whether it's the men's companies, I mean, Marigold, we've seen them bring in multiple foreigners in there, including Bozilla, who got a pretty decent amount of support, even after really for that first match.
Her
there.
impact was strong.
In a very brief time, to say the least. But yeah, so everybody got some good, and a lot of different promotions as well. Have a lot of foreigners as well. So it's not like it's just one. It's not, New Japan has a ton of foreigners. Like we all know that watching their shows. Noah has a lot of foreigners. Those are backed by big companies. But even outside of that, they still, like, a lot of companies still have taken the time and investment in a lot of these non-Japanese talent, which is really cool.
So, Dylan, for when I'm looking at the listeners' votes, we have 2 wrestlers from New Japan Pro Wrestling making it into the top 3. That's Gabe Kidd on number 3. Leo Dr. Wagner Jr., I mentioned him, number 2. And with a landslide victory, Zack Sabre Jr. I'm going to say that I also have Zack Sabre Jr. on top of my Stan Hansen Award, just because of the sheer output that he has been doing this year in New Japan. And for me, it's actually a complete swoop of New Japan Pro Wrestling in the top 3. I know that the guy isn't beloved by a lot of our mutuals online, but we've seen TJP wrestle in the Best of the Super Junior this year, and he has just been incredibly outstanding, and he has been doing great work in the tag team with Akira Francesco. So he's my number 3. And I was kind of surprised that Robbie Eagles got so few votes from the listeners, because I also thought that Robbie Eagles has been doing incredible work, very much like TJP, also in the singles, but also in the tag team with Kosei Fujita. So my top 3, Zack Sabre Jr., Robbie Eagles, and TJP.
Well, TJP's a fantastic wrestler, and they've actually given him more of a push this year, I would say. Like, he's kind of bridged. He's got that junior and heavyweight kind of back and forth thing going, which is, I'm not in love with that from a story perspective, but from giving him opportunities to wrestle, that's definitely benefited. He's gotten way more single spotlight this year than he has in years past.
You would think he would be a great never openweight champion, right?
Well, if they let juniors win that belt, yes.
yes.
But he's bridging the gap a little bit. I mean, he beat Kojima.
Yeah.
Like that must have been a real thrill.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those 2 guys were the 2 best guys in the junior tournament, like the best in Super Junior, to me. Like, I thought in ring, they're just both phenomenal. Eagles, again, similar to TJP, just a great, like, all around wrestler. Like, I think he does a lot of things so well. And such a great, stylistic talent that I just love their wrestling so much, for sure. Briefly, because this award, I mean, the thing is with Zach, he's the boring pick. But it's like somebody made a comment when I was posting like a bunch of stuff on Twitter this past week. I was trying to hype up the award and stuff. And when this award came up, somebody was basically like, there's a lot of great foreign talents, but at the end of the day, Zach had like one of the best matches in the whole world this year.
Yes.
So it's hard to really overlook that. So I will briefly swerve from this a little bit to ask you something real quick to talk about, because we didn't get the chance to talk about it. What did you think of, and it kind of bridges into the next award even a little bit, what did you think of New Japan moving on Bolton and Newman to the G1?
Yeah, I was watching the show just yesterday, actually, and when I saw that that Callum won the match with Yoshihashi, I was thinking, maybe this wasn't such a good placement of the match, because I thought there is no chance that now Bolton is moving on as well. But they did, actually. And for both guys, I think it's an incredible opportunity, and it's for New Japan Pro Wrestling to mix up the G1 schedule and to get new wrestlers into the tournament is very vital, because, I mean, of course, Yoshihashi and Tomohiro Ishii are great wrestlers, but there's only so many matches that you can still do with these two. Whereas for Newman and for Oleg Bolton, it's an incredible opportunity to grow even more inside the ring. So I couldn't really be mad about Yoshihashi and Ishii not making it. Yoshihashi and Ishii had still think it's going to be one of the best G1 matches. That's not a G1 match. It's incredible. It was a great match. So these two being in, it gives the tournament a new form of life that it probably wouldn't have had with the same guys in.
And Bolton getting a win over Tanahashi. To
A dominant one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the president going out unselfishly here. But yeah, I thought it wouldn't happen. I thought it was a year too soon for them. But I really have no issues with it either. As much as I love Ishii and Yoshihashi, and here's the thing, I would be perfectly okay with this if Yoshihashi was in A block and Okan was out. I would be have no qualms whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's the one change I would make. And maybe you could swap Phantasmo for Tanahashi or Taichi in B block or one of those guys. But the thing is, as much as I love those guys, they have 0% chance to win this tournament whatsoever. And Yoshihashi maybe could be alive on the final day, if things go, an injury happens or something, he could fall his way to advance. But it's very low. He would not be a top contender at all. So, is it worth it to have guys have great matches that are mid-carders? They're not. It's not like they're moving up from this tournament. If Yoshihashi has all excellent matches, they're not going to push him more coming out of it. So with this, you could actually get some buzz on a guy, which I'm a big believer in Bolton. I think he has a ton of potential to do some great things. Newman, I personally am not a fan of, but he's very young right now. And so you want a guy, they clearly see a lot in him. We saw that with the Naito match last month. They even gave him that. So these are going to be two big projects for them over the next couple of years. So why not kickstart it now? No issue. But I will say one thing on that about Tana. They are stupid. If it basically has to be next year. It should have been this year in hindsight. They are throwing money away if they don't do one last Tanahashi G1 run. In the vein of Tenzan and Nagata. Just to say goodbye. That's money that you're throwing away. That is a draw. There's no doubt in my mind. I think they should have done it with Kojima, to be honest with you, in years past. And so if they do that, that's bad. There's no excuse not to. I don't care how old he is or how broken down he is. That's money you're throwing away, for no reason. So if they do not do a tournament that is hyped as the last one ever for him, they are stupid. That is a bad move and ridiculous. But I have no problem with it. Bolton, I really like a lot, and I think he'll have a great tournament as well. But I just wanted to bring that up because we hadn't talked about it. Zach, dominant win. He's kind of the default choice right now. In years past, we might have had Ospreay, who's popular with a lot of Western fans, been up there. But he's gone now, so we didn't have to worry about him. Zach is the winner of the award, and deservedly so. And I voted for him as well. A lot of these guys are good. Though I really like Jason Lee's run in Dragon Gate right now as a heel. I think he's really turned it on and gotten a great spot, with his new gimmick and everything like that. Kid, I think, has definitely gotten a lot of opportunities, and in-ring wise, I really like him. I think he's a guy, when I think of Kid, he to me reminds me, I'm going to make a reference that you don't understand at all, I'm certain here, but maybe some listeners will. He reminds me of a player for the Grizzlies in the past. He's like the wrestling version of this guy, Dylan Brooks, where the short story on him is he was a really good defensive player and a really bad offensive player who thought he was the best offensive player. So he took a lot of shots that he shouldn't have, and it really hurt the team. And trash talked and did a bunch of goofy stuff, and I'm glad he's gone. Long story short now. But that's who he reminds me of, where the things he's good at, he's great at, but the things he's bad at, it could be not bad if he toned himself down, if he could be 80% of who he is as a character and not be so try-hard and over the top, he would be great. But also, then he wouldn't be who he was at the same time. And it's the same way with Dylan Brooks, where if you toned him down, it would be better on paper, but then he would lose the essence of who he is. So it's a really catch-22 now with this gimmick where you have to have, he basically has to do this now and be this way. So, but he's had a good year. I really respect his in-ring work, and I like that he's trying to do something different. Wagner, it was great that he won the title, but the problem is like how many matches did he wrestle?
Yeah,
like,
the run wasn't good. No.
It's not that it wasn't good. It was not. There was not a lot of quantity to it.
The match in which he won the title, it was a fine match.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
It wasn't that great, actually. The one with Kaito was good, but
that was really good.
Yeah. That was basically it.
That's what I'm saying. Like his wrestling was good. It's just he didn't wrestle that much ultimately, and compared to Zach, who wrestled a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
So we'll go with him. I think that's the right pick from the fans, you and myself as well. But congratulations to every foreigner who makes a good impact in Japan. I know that's a dream for a lot of people coming in.
I think Hinare would have had a great shot if he hadn't been injured after that steel cage match. Man, that match took a toll on so many guys, man.
Especially him. He had like the most devastating spots in the match. From a standpoint.
That's true, but it took away much more from Kovlin, actually.
That's true. He retired. Yeah.
But had Hinare not been injured, I think he would have had a great year as well. So, maybe we'll see more from him for the year-end awards.
And he's in the G1 as well. And that's a great thing, too. A lot of these guys, even if they didn't get votes, they have opportunities now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, that basically concludes the first one, the Stan Hansen Award. We're going to Jun Akiyama, the Akiyama Award for the best rookie of the half year. Dylan, you had to do some work there to cut out some rookies that are not eligible to be voted for.
The only problems were really Umino and Tsuji, who have been around for not longer than that.
Tsuji debuted in 2018.
Yes, so that's not a rookie, no matter how you cut it out there. But everything else was pretty good.
Yeah.
We had to vote for AEW as Rookie of the Year.
As a Rookie of the Year, yes.
I mean, they're growing boys at AEW. They've only been around for 5 years now.
Yes.
And they're not
eligible anymore.
No, and they're not Japanese. They're not even a wrestler. This makes no sense. This vote.
When I'm looking at the fans' votes, it's pretty similar to what I have, with one exception. Actually, with two exceptions, if you want to be sure about that. I do have Oleg Bolton on my number 3, while the listeners have him on number 2.
No, this was the one award. If you look at it, this was like the closest award in terms of votes. We could have impacted the vote here if we had both had, because he was very close. Oleg did.
I have Tanaka on number 2. I think he's exceptional. He recently had this. It doesn't count anymore because it was in July, but he had a very, very good singles match with Flamita. He's very good in the 6-man tags with the D-Courage. That guy is going to be great for Dragon Gate some point down the line. The one that I have on my number 1 is one that only had 3 votes overall, that I am a big, big fan of his, and we have been talking about him in a couple of shows already. It is Ulka Sasaki. I think that the guy has been doing tremendous work getting himself into the pro wrestling mode. I almost shied away from him because they're throwing him into the deep ends right now in Pro Wrestling Noah, and I don't think that he's ready for that yet. But for the first 6 months of 2024, he was the one that impressed the most from the wrestlers that are eligible for this category.
Yeah, I think he's a great pick. He's a guy that brings a unique style to the table and clearly loves wrestling, and I think he's really adapted well early on. And I definitely shared your concerns as well, that they might push him forward a little too fast, but I think they've done a decent job with that, like not going too crazy. I mean, we'll see when the N1 gets announced and how that turns out. But his perspectives and prospects are good right now for sure, I would say. And I really like him a lot for sure. I like all of these people. Like if you look at this vote,
yes.
I think that the rookie class is really good. And I kind of separate it. To me, if you're getting like a 1 vote guy, I kind of separate you because anybody can vote. Like if it's just a one-off, can vote for anything. Yeah. But if you get multiple votes, that signals to me, even if it's not a lot, that kind of is a signal to me that you've done something right. Both of the Evo girls, Chi-Chi and Zones, got votes, which were good picks as well. I like them both a lot. Chi-Chi especially. Rani Yagami, she has such a unique look and style in Stardom that I think she's going to really be something, and I really enjoy her as well. Blanca Majo, I was very surprised to hear her get multiple votes. I knew my man, Mr. Wrestling 2, JC, was going to vote for her, but someone else did as well, so good stuff there. She's an indie Joshi wrestler, but very good, very much upside. Oka, great pick on your part. I think he's a guy that brings a lot to the table. Uehara, Sayaka Kurara, Victoria Yuzuki, like all young Joshi wrestlers that bring a lot to the table. Here is my question for you. Since you voted for Oka, and the fans voted for Yu Owada here as the number one, very, very narrowly. This was our closest award, as I said. Because, I mean, if Oka and Owada, they're in the same company. They've gotten somewhat similar opportunities. Like, Oka's gotten more, I would say, than Owada, for sure. But how do you kind of rank them? Like match them up? Like, what made you choose Oka over Owada?
I think it's the style that Oka goes with.
Yeah.
That I'm more into than the style that Owada has. If you just look at it objectively, the two should probably rank very high.
Yeah.
So it came down to my personal taste, I guess, for this one. We're trying to be as objective as possible, of course, but sometimes you gotta give one guy the edge over the other if you're just a little bit more into their style of wrestling. And
I don't think that, but the thing is, I don't think either one of those votes are wrong. Like, I think you can make a case, an argument for either one. Ultimately, again, they've had similar, like this. Their circumstances are similar. Like ultimately they've pushed in the same style of match. They've done stuff on the undercard. Obviously the styles are different. Owada, I think, has a ton of potential. If you go back to that tag league run with Keno, he might have been the best guy in that whole league. He might have been one of the MVP players in it. He reminds me a lot of Kotage, actually, like at his age. I think he's got a very good crowd reaction, a little bit like Watto when he was a young lion as well. I think he's got a little bit of that to him. I think he's got a ton of upside. It's just like what they do with him. I think that's the thing with Noah. With Oka, I think there's a much clearer path to success because he has started older, and they're going to feel more motivated to do something with him. With Owada, we could be looking at 7 or 8 years before we get
it's always tough to go with a Noah rookie. I mean, they are always good to very good, but
there's not a lot of them.
Look at guys like Yuta Miyawaki, where he has gone.
Well, obviously, there's a lot we can say about that because they have not utilized him to the best of his abilities, for sure.
He himself hasn't used himself to the best of his abilities.
That's true. I think he's definitely been demoralized, I think, from that early going. Because when he came back, remember, he had that great match with Amakusa.
Yep.
And then it was like immediately,
bye. Very brief, good run.
Yeah, but Owada, and that's another thing, too. If Owada, the thing with Noah is if you're in the junior division, then, you're just in a black hole. Like, you're in that Hayata space. I think he'll be a heavyweight eventually. So, he was a good pick. I went with Ryuya Tanaka as my top pick, to be honest. I think the top three are pretty fair. I think that the difference between Tanaka and the Noah guys, because I think both of those guys would be in my top three. Like, Oka would be my second and Owada would be my third. But it was really close. Like, I don't think there's one good spot for either of them. And I think I picked Oka for the same reason as you. Like, just stylistically he appeals. He's a little bit different. Whereas, so I went with him as a second, but I went Tanaka number one. And the reason why, and I think the difference between him and the Noah guys, there's just more quantity with him. Like, you get more opportunities in Dragon Gate, wrestling these so many shows. He's into Courage, so he's constantly put in good spots as well. That makes him look even better than he already is, for sure. So I am a big fan of all of these guys, but I went with Tanaka, and I think he's another guy. It's not really fair to judge potential on this, because we don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. when it comes to these guys. We can only say what we've seen with our own eyes, right? But you look at him in tag matches, you look at him in singles matches. He had the match with Kota Minoura last month. They put him in singles matches every once in a while, and I think he's done good in every role, whether it's against big guys, whether it's against other smaller guys, whether it's in the tag team or the trios team. He was a champion this year with the Triangle Gate as well. So he's got a lot of good to him, and I really like him, and I think he's got a ton of upside for the company as well, and I'm very confident that he will get there. So you went with Ulka, I went with Ryoya Tanaka, and the overall winner, though, is Yu Owada from Noah, and I think all three of those people have great cases to make, and I don't think there's any wrong answer from them. Or really any, like I said, all of these people I think you could make a case for as like really strong talent. It's great to see so much. You kind of mentioned the foreigners. I mean, someone like Kira Summer for Tokyo Joshi Pro, she came over from Australia and has done a lot of really good stuff and been a great bright spot on their shows as well. So, so really good stuff overall with the rookies. It's a really bright spot of the awards, I would say.
Just on the topic of quality for the rookies, that's absolutely vital for their development. I'm just looking at Ryo Tanaka's profile. He debuted in May of 23. While Owada debuted in July. And for Tanaka, he has already crossed the barrier of 100 matches. We are on the second cage match page, actually, for him, while for Yu Owada, we are still on the first one. He has had 88 matches. That is such an important milestone for a wrestler to have these 100 matches. That's always something that wrestlers call out, that they, at some point around this barrier, they start to get it, and we'll definitely see that Owada will develop in a much, much faster pace if he has crossed this barrier.
Yeah, they've done a good, decent job with him for sure, and he'll just get a little bit more. 2 months, I mean, that's pretty similar, I would say, if you take 2 months out, 88 to 10. So they've done a good job with him for sure. But I just think he's got more opportunities in better spots because Owada is mainly working the same style of rookie matches going in there. Tanaka can mix it up with the Triangle Gate, be in major matches with the Courage. I think that's helped him. That's really what's helped his growth, I would say, more than anything. With Owada, there is no faction that he's a part of that he can grow and have somebody take him under his wing. Same thing with Ulka, with Sugiura earlier on. I think that really helped him.
Oh, yeah.
Have somebody help him under his wing. With Owada, he's just kind of like, the thing with Noah is they don't have any rookies like besides him at this point. So Ozawa, he's gone. Well, I think has a ton of upside. By the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's nobody there with him, so he's just doing these same kind of rookie matches over and over, and I think he's great at them. But I think someone like Tanaka has gotten more varied, and even Ulka, and that's kind of why I picked him as well, they've got more varied opportunities than Owada. And if they could get more rookies, I think that would help him go a long way. And maybe, like I said, if they had a unit that he could be a part of, I also think that would help a lot too.
So we're going to most improved, and this was a very hard-fought category, Dylan, in comparison to the Stan Hansen Award that we had earlier. Very widespread votes, and I think that this is one of the more subjective ones, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing when I was adding this all up. It's like, this has got to. It's not as bad as underrated for sure, but it's showing that like you could go a lot of different ways with this award, and the listeners chose a way I utterly disagree with as the winner.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, don't apologize. I mean, everybody's allowed to have opinions.
No, I'm sorry for the listeners, but I can't agree with that either.
Yeah, so you're on my side.
Yes.
But yeah, like what you said is so true. We had a ton of votes for a ton of different people, and that's good. And the thing is, it's hard to really argue against a lot of these. Overall, I think you could make a case for pretty much anybody. One of the ones I think that I really also disagree with is like, not to make anybody scene here, but Owada got a vote for improved. And it's very hard for me to improve when you're still a rookie. It's like you started off as a rookie, and like you're good already. That's like you start off as good. At the end of the day, it's not like Owada struggled for a long time and suddenly is now way better. In my opinion, Noah as a company got a couple of votes as well. So you get that in there. But in the end, you had Oka, Ren Ayabe, and Yuma Anzai as the number one for the fans. And I admit that last year I probably saw, I probably was higher on Anzai last year than a lot of people, and I do admit that. And now everyone's come around and saw my vision finally after all this time. But I just think, and the thing is, he's great. Like, there's nothing against him at all. Like, for this, I just think he was already great last year. Like, he went from great to still great. Like, he was one of the best last year. He's still one of the best this year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. The only thing you could say improved was, him winning the Triple Crown, which, is an improvement in status, I suppose. But it's not, I wouldn't have voted for him, is all I'm saying here. But congratulations to Anzai. He did get the Triple Crown. You cannot hate on that too much. I just think he was already amazing. So
that affects.
Who'd you vote for?
My most improved, I want to give a shout out to Ren Ayabe. He has been improving ever since he has been with All Japan Pro Wrestling as a contracted wrestler, but I still think there is a way to go for him. So I
agree with that, but let's be honest, he also improved his pants very much this year. If there was a most improved pants award, Ayabe has to get the win.
Yes, they definitely Miyahara'd him up significantly. Yes.
He looks like the Rainmaker coming out with the jacket and everything else.
Yeah, that's that as well. My number 3 is from Dragon Gate. It's Ryo Fuda. He always has trouble with his injuries.
Yeah.
But I thought back to the great singles match that he had with Masaki Mochizuki, and he has been in some undercard tags recently where I really liked him. I'm just hoping that the guy can be healthy for a run, because if he can be, he will be a very good asset for Dragon Gate as well. So I wanted to give him a bit of shout out here, because I liked the performances that he had this year much more than in the past, where I thought that he had been struggling with his presence and self-confidence inside the ring, and that has grown very much in the last couple of months. Alongside these veterans that he's wrestling with in Dragon Gate right now. For number 2, I took Kosei Fujita. Mentioned, yes, rookie. They start off good, but with Kosei Fujita, they've been working very hard that he has gotten to this opportunity, and he has been working very hard in the tag team with Robbie Eagles alongside Zack Sabre Jr. a lot. I thought that he improved very much. Last year, it was even more visible with the storyline of him learning the Japanese leg roll clutch hold, or the European clutch that Zack does. That was great. I love his drop kick. By the way, that's what I love from Yu Owada as well. Great missile kick. And I just think that he's a tremendous junior heavyweight that will be the ace of that division at some point, whatever that means in the end. And my obvious number 1 pick, I think this was the easiest for me, and I think it's the first one that I had set in stone. It is, of course, Seigo Tachibana. I've been shouting from the rooftop for this guy ever since the beginning of the year. I think late last year I began seeing that. Just some tremendous matches in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Just recently, a great opening match with Fuminori Abe. He benefited so much from Kuroshio coming back, but made it work for himself. And we've been discussing that on one of our most recent episodes, so I could only go with that guy.
Yeah, Fuda, he's a guy, on Dramatic Dream Dragons, which I did make a surprise return in the past week for an episode on. We were really big on Fuda for a long time coming in there, and what you said is so accurate. Like to me, he's always been very good. The problem is he's always injured, and if he can just stay healthy, that's going to be his true greatest improvement. Fujita, I agree with, is an improved player. He's not even a rookie really at this point. He's been around for years. He's positioned as like the young boy of the group, but still, he's not really he wouldn't be eligible for our rookie award, to say the least. But he's been around for a while. And I think he's shown a lot of growth. I think he's done a great job. You look at his tournament run. That match with Desperado was still one of the best matches of the best of the Super Junior. So he's a really good guy. think he's got a lot of upside. It just depends on where they go with him, more or less. And I guess to kind of spin it off, too, this is another thing we didn't get to talk about. What did you think of Doki winning the belt from Desperado?
That caught me so off guard. That I think that caught me even more off guard than Oleg and Callum Newman making it to the tournament, because they just for the life of them can't give any guy a proper run with any belt. It's just so frustrating. And especially for Desperado, what's he got to do now? He's not in the G1. He's lost the junior title again.
Nope,
they could give him the summer off.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, but Newman and Oleg, a lot of people were predicting that. Like, I just thought it would be too soon for them, but other people had the scoop on that. You know, like it wasn't like somebody, you know, it was something that came out of nowhere. I just didn't think it would happen this soon. This Doki thing came out of nowhere at the end of the day. Like, but the thing is, with Desperado as champion, there's no real value in him as champion at this point. You know, like, they've got what they've got out of him. He won the tournament and got the belt away from Sho. Doki, him winning the title actually means something, I would say. So it's like, either way, like whoever the champion is, if you're a junior in New Japan, like, this is your time to be on the bench for the next 3 months, probably. So it's not like it really matters that much. Like, they got their big moment for him with the run, and like, they don't see anything in these people, like, ultimately, or they wouldn't be juniors at the end of the day. And I think that's clear as day based on how they did it. And like, he had that match with Sho. The Show bombed. They said enough of that would put the belt on Doki. Like, at the end of the day. But I mean, that match wasn't even that great, to be honest. The Doki Desperado match, it was really good.
Yeah.
And it was a cool moment. Like, for Doki, that was a great moment to me. Like, I was very happy.
Obviously, for him, it's great. It's just these start and stop runs I've never been a friend of.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Like, the thing is, like you said, it's not just this thing. Like, with the juniors, you could point to pretty much every belt that they have besides the main title, and it's like, none of these belts mean anything, and that's the problem. Like, that's the consequence of how they book their titles. None of these belts matter at all, ultimately. But still, that was a very surprising thing. I thought it was worth bringing up for Doki to win. So I think all of these people are good. Somewhere Gerard DeTrolio is saying, no, Sego didn't improve at all. He was always a great on there. Which, again, you said it right. The tag run last year was really his breakout, in my opinion. You know, teaming with Jiro, when you team with somebody as just awful as Jiro, it makes you look so much better. And it was genius booking in a lot of ways to do that. And he really showed out, but he did a great job, in all honesty, in that tag team. And then he had this run with the TV title. I don't want to say the TV title means anything or go crazy over that, but he was having good matches. He had a really good run with that belt and made an undercard belt matter somewhat.
I was just going to say, if you can make that title, the Gaora TV Championship, meaningful, then you've had a good run.
In any way.
Yes.
Like, any way.
Any fucking way. That championship is, I don't know what to say about this championship even.
Well, that's kind of like when...
Let's briefly go back into the history of the Gaora TV Championship.
Okay. I'm all for this.
Dylan, who was the first Gaora TV champion?
Oh man, this had to be so long ago. Who was running the company? Which edition?
It was still Muto.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like, I thought this was a Muto era thing. Maybe Kaz Hayashi?
It was Seiya Sanada.
Sanada, yeah, okay.
Yes. Had a run with the title for 232 days and then dropped it to Rene Dupré in Canada, who was champion for 75 days because he was going to go to Wrestle One and I think had one or two matches with the company. And then we have had prolific runs like Zushi, Kotaro Suzuki, Kenzo, Zushi again, Yohei Nakajima, Katsuhiro Tamino, Yohei Nakajima again, Takeshi Minamino, Yohei Nakajima again, Hideki Kid, Yohei Nakajima once again, Jiro Kuroshio, and so on and so forth. And now we're actually at a point where that title can mean something because the last two champions with the Seigo Tachi are Yeah, Tanaka hasn't been really doing anything with the belt. He just carried it around.
But that was his Voodoo Murderers Tanaka. It wasn't the Tanaka we love.
Yes. Seigo Tachibana and Fumudori Abe, great champions. So let's hope that they make something out of this belt.
Yeah, I would say.
Brief history lesson here.
Yeah, I would say the best one for the belt before was Irie's run a couple of years ago, where he had a really good run, and they tried to make it mean something, and then it's like they went to like Hijikata or Toshizo getting Voodoo Murderers run there. I remember when they did the ladder match for that. It was him and Yusuke Kodama was in there, like Menso Ray. It was all messed up, like that whole era. But yeah. Seigo Tachibana, very good. We like him very much. And Fujita as well, a good pick. Anzai, again, he's great. I just don't think he's improved. My pick was Yurika Oka. I think her teaming with... I think her team really helped her a lot. Team with Mio Momono. And I think she's really stepped up her game ever since. Now that, you look at, we're going to get into it soon with the best promotion, but you look at a group like Sendai getting a lot of love through the Wrestle Universe stuff getting on there. I think that helps people like that, and I think that she's done a great job. It really helps people like us, the Western fans, see these folks more, but she's definitely grown a lot. I would say from the December 31st to now, I think she has shown the most improvement in the ring. Ayabe has shown great improvement in terms of presentation, and obviously they love him a lot, and he's a great prospect for him. I think one day we all think he'll be a main event player. I think in-ring, he's definitely improved. Don't get me wrong. He's shown growth. I just think that Oka took more of a step forward purely with her talents than Ayabe did. So I think those are good picks. Anzai, Ayabe, and Oka were the top three for the fans, and I would go with Oka there. So I can't. Yeah.
I think you could also make a similar case for Manami in Sendai Girls teaming with Ryo Mizunami. I think that helped her very much as well. I mean, she's been great inside the ring, but she's learned so much when it comes to the entertainment side of wrestling from Ryo Mizunami. Very entertaining tag team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm looking at here, even Kaito got a vote in this as the most improved. Umino on there. I thought about Mao. I think he would be my number two, of everybody. I think he's improved a lot, in the ring with this run that he's on right now about the main event, Peter Pan. But if you look at him, the thing is, the stuff that people liked him for, he's still just as good at before. But the stuff he sucked at, he actually got better at. So now were people like me who didn't like him that much. I didn't think he was very good. I actually like him now, and I thought he's had a really great run in DDT.
He really has. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he could have had a little bit more love, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right. All right, before we go to best promotion, I want to give the shout out to the MUETWDDMUA award, the most underrated, even though we don't do most underrated award anymore, Dylan. I just want to give one name and one name only, and that's Seiki Yoshioka.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially after that tag match last month, I thought that was a great match. I think they're recognizing him for sure, but he needs even more recognition.
Yes.
I would say. Yeah. Well, what inspired this?
I don't know. I just copy and pasted the awards from the document, and I had most underrated in there, and I immediately thought about Seiki Yoshioka, so I just figured I give him a shout out.
I'm never going to be against more Seiki Yoshioka love on this show, STRIGGA, so I'm not going to argue against it. I just thought it was random, but hey, you're rolling the dice here. That's a good one. There.
So best promotion, we have a winner. In the end, it was a little bit close, but still, though, with Noah on top, we got more votes than for All Japan Pro Wrestling. So we have Noah, All Japan, and TJPW in the top three from the listeners. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that TJ got so much love.
TJ always gets a lot of love because we have listeners that are very beloved fans of the promotion, and there have always been great call outs for TJPW talent, TJPW matches, TJPW shows on these awards shows. So shout out to all the Tokiyoshi Pro fans out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone's definitely allowed to have their fandoms for sure. No disrespect at all intended, but to get in the top 3 was a little surprising. I thought that like them jumping ahead of DG and DDT was pretty surprising this year.
Mm-hmm.
They got more than Stardom and Marigold combined. I mean, Marigold's very young, and I think that's the thing that holds them back.
Exactly, yeah, the split. Yeah.
Well, if not even that, just the time of it. And by the end of the year, Marigold, if they keep going how they're going, I think a lot of people will vote for them more. I think a lot of people didn't want to vote for a company that's been around for a month in the half-year awards, which is good. That's an accurate way, in my opinion, to do things. But that was good. Noah getting the win here. What do you make of this? This Noah appreciation show, also known as the Eastern Lariat half-year that we're running?
I gotta be honest. I make of this that people, I'm just assuming, of course, I make of this that people watch the essential Noah shows, and the Kirken shows and the bigger shows this year have been pretty great. When I, however, look at some of the tour shows that they put up on Wrestle Universe, I look at the cards and I don't even want to watch the shows. The talent might be good, but these shows always scream to me that I'm wasting my time. That is why I'm only really looking at the bigger shows, the Kirkens, and the bigger shows than Kirken. And if you look at those, I think you can make a case for Pro Wrestling Noah because they've been good and they've been improving in contrast to last year. And one big argument, they have to be the limit break shows.
Yeah, those are the best shows to me that no one does.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And that, I think, inspired a lot of people to vote for Pro Wrestling Noah. It's never easy, I think, to really vote for a best promotion because that also, just like the most underrated or the most improved award, can be very subjective to your own liking.
Yeah.
I want to say, if you just don't watch Yoshi Wrestling, you're not going to vote for TGPW or Stardom or Marigold. If you're not into the style of Dragon Gate, you will probably not vote for Dragon Gate. So I guess a lot of people were into what Noah had been producing on top and on the limit break shows. So that is, I think, what happened here.
Yeah, I think, Wrestle Magic was a good show.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't a fan of last month's show, like Big Show with Kid and Kaito in the main event. I mean, that was a great match, but the rest of the show didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
Overall, and I don't think any of their shows actually. I think that way about all of their big shows. I don't think they have great big shows, in my opinion. Like top to bottom. If you look at their year, I think you have Wrestle Magic and the January 2nd show, which ended with literally the worst match we've ever seen. Pretty much. So it's and Evil was in the main match. I didn't think that was a great show either, to be honest. So I think that I think something with Noah in general that I'm just not seeing that other people are perhaps there. That's not a flaw with the listeners. Maybe it's a me issue on here. But business-wise, they're one of the biggest ones that went down, from this year to last year. And obviously the Muto show had a big effect on that, not having that this year. Their booking is all over the place as usual. And again, I think they're benefiting from not... let's say Kaito loses this belt this weekend. I think everybody who voted for Noah and Kaito in these awards may end up changing their votes by the end of the year, which is always a possibility. But I think they've got good vibes right now. I think Kaito being the champion, a lot of people like, even though the rest of the card... And they did have a feel-good moment with Sugiura and Marufuji winning the tag belts as well there. I mean, I'm not a huge Marufuji fan at this point, but still... it's better than, the GLG push that they had, I would say. That's over with now. We'll try and get Hayata away from the belts in the future. That should be the automatic rule. If Hayata is a champion, you cannot be best promotion in Dylan's awards votes overall. But they're good, and the Limit Break shows are very, very good. And Go's anniversary show was a great show
Yes.
So
I have another shout out for another Limit Break show later down the line.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see how it goes on that end. But for me, and the thing is, another thing, I think this is an award where there's not an easy answer anywhere you look, because we mentioned the economical situation in Japan earlier, and it's hurt everybody. like every company is down ultimately from where you would want them to be, outside of Marigold, who just started and have started off very successful so far, but that's still a very short, small sample size. So there's not really, we can't really point to a company that's big or hot right now to go with, because I think that can go a long way a lot of the times. New Japan, very up and down year, I would say, to say the least. I mean, they've had the junior tournament. I thought they started off really well, with the first couple of months, and they really pissed all of that goodwill away.
January and February have been really strong. The final for the Best of the Super Junior and for the New Japan Cup have been good. The final matches. Yeah, not a lot to hold on to since then. To be quite honest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They started off strong and they screwed up. As time went along.
Yeah, I want to say I would give Noah the edge on number 3, just because of what you just said. It's really hard to vote anyone else in there. I liked, ever since Sendai Girls appeared on Wrestle Universe, I really like their shows. So I want to give them a shout out for my honorable mentions. Really good stuff that I've been seeing there, just like I said, for example, with Manami, or with Mika Iwata finally being on top and being double champion. Number 2 for me is Dragon Gate. I think they've had a good first half of the year, and they've been very strong for their build to Kobe World now. The card has been set weeks in advance. That's much more than we had in years past. Clear storyline paths. They've gotten away from Luis Mante on top, which hadn't been working out. Great emotional moment with the steel cage match in May. So they've been good. But overall, bridging from last year to this year.
And the great thing about Dragon Gate is if you look at their official attendances, they feel like a really hot promotion. If you look at their numbers they post.
Hurricanes have been good for them. Yep.
Well, they're lying. They're not actually, but it's obvious that they work their numbers and they're not hot at all. But still.
Yeah. It's they've been they announced 958 in Osaka this past weekend, and well, I don't think. Still though, Hurricanes have been great for the company, and but for a company that have been where Hurricanes have been even better is All Japan Pro Wrestling, bridging back from last year. I think they've been doing some very interesting work. We've been through the entire Katsuhiko Nakajima saga, and I was on the edge of my seat when they finally went to Yuma Anzai. I was thinking, okay, how do they make this work right now? Because he has not had a good Champion Carnival run, and the title win was not good. But the last weeks, since May, since him winning the title, they've been course correcting and they've been getting into very good direction. The Shinkiba shows are some of the hottest shows that you can find in all of Japan. Hurricanes have been very good, have been very hot as well. They have this great side project with New Chronicle Z. So most of the shows and most of the ideas that All Japan have been producing this year have worked out well.
Yeah, they were my pick as well. I went with All Japan. I think if you look at their year top to bottom, they've been one of the more consistent companies in terms of business. They're not having a sumo hall show like Noah is, but with what they do great things. The fans are always very lively at their shows. There's a lot of passion, and they're doing great stuff. In terms of bridging the gap, kind of with this new faction with Elpida. They've taken a lot of work with a lot of the young guys and like made them stalwarts of the future as well. We mentioned Yoshioka earlier. Him and Musashi as a team getting the All Asia belts, I think is great. You've got a lot of really great workers in the undercard as well. Like Sato, I thought made that tag match so well on there. You've got Suwama. He announced like this is going to be his last like Triple Crown match. I mean, well, we'll see if that turns into at the end of the day. But I think the idea is good. Like the vibes are very good with All Japan right now.
One of the best vibes faction in the entire landscape is the Saito brothers with Mr. Saito, Naruki Doi, who is even doing the Doom gesture on the Dragon Gate shows. So that's just incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, they're like, super over. The Saito brothers, like everything they're doing is working. Like they're hitting on all cylinders, except for that NWA thing where they brought in EC3 in the end.
Let's hope that it was a one-off.
Yeah, we could probably get rid of that. But besides that, I think that the company's great vibes right now, and business-wise, they're one of the more consistent promotions. Like, and it's been that way the full year too. It's not like they had up and downs. Like with Nakajima as champion was successful as a champion.
Yes.
But the vibes weren't as good as they are now with Anzai at the end of the day. So good improvements, great matches. I mean, and that's the great thing about Anzai. When you have someone like him leading the charge, he's basically like proving to be kind of bulletproof. Like because his Champion Carnival run wasn't. I mean, he was one of the best workers in there, but they weren't booking him that strong. You know, he had some key losses, which we both thought that he needed to be pushed a little bit stronger after the Nakajima, which was a disaster of a match. But he's really overcome it. It really hasn't hurt him at all. It led to a great match with Hideki. Kento he had a huge win over Kento, and it feels like they're just moving onwards and upwards and doing great things. So All Japan would be my pick, but I also think DG, I agree with everything you said about them too. They've done a great build to Kobe World, and they have a chance now. Like, if this second half of the year pops off, they've done a great job of really elevating guys. For example, like Yamato in the main event. Last year at this time, I didn't give a crap what he was doing. I thought he was super stale and boring. And now he's like one of the best parts of the promotion. And, Minoura, same thing. You could do a ton of interesting things with that bald bastard going forward now. I think that he is a guy that has a lot of upside. They have interesting stories they could go through. There's a lot of hope for the future for DG that could be there. And I think even DDT has done a good job building to their Peter Pan show.
Yes, that's true, yep.
They're kind of leaning in on these New Japan guys coming in as well, with Hiromu getting announced for later in the month as well. So there's a lot of upside for them. Stardom, I said before last episode that I think that the rumors of their demise are a little bit exaggerated. I think they're doing better than people say in-ring wise. And Mario Gold, they have a ton of upside in the future. So it's going to be a great race to the end of the year. But right now, I would say All Japan would be the winner. So we disagree with the fans, even though Noah, like there's ups and downs with them, I would say. I don't know if I agree with this vote, to be honest. But, we'll see what happens. Like I said, let's see what happens after this show this weekend. How people feel about it.
One more thing on Dragon Gate, Mario, that you brought up, Kota Minura. What's your take on them adding Mochizuki Jr. to Gold Class?
Great. I think he's a great fit. He needed to be in a faction. The thing about that's kind of interesting is that they're another one. I think rumors of their demise may have been greatly exaggerated there, because this points to Gold Class sticking around.
Yes.
For a little while. They've been on death's door a couple of times now in their existence, and they keep coming back. And I think he's a great shot in the arm to any group that he would come in. I think that guy is so damn good.
If you're looking at any group in that company, Gold Class, if you want to keep them around, they definitely needed that shot in the arm.
Yeah, I think we were speculating that maybe they would do a new faction, switch some people off, have Minoura turn, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just happy with Benkei and Mochi being together there. That's just what I wanted.
Yeah, Minorita as well. You've got a really good group here. Yeah, so I'm into it. Mochizuki Jr. could do no wrong by me. I mean, his match versus his dad, great match.
And not only that, the just a couple of days later, that opening match with Kota Minura, which led to him being added to Gold Class. I think that was one of the best openers we've seen this year in any company in Japan.
Yeah, Mochi Jr. He's a guy that's going to be getting some awards on this show, in my opinion.
Definitely so. Yes. So that is the best promotion. We're going straight on to the show of the half year, Dylan. What do you have?
This is one of the more competitive awards that we had as well. I like that. I like some awards were a blowout, but some were competitive, and this is one of the more competitive ones. You look at the rankings, and a lot of shows got a lot of votes, too, in this one. So I like that as well. It showed there was a lot of supporters. For me, I think there were a lot of great options. I don't think there were too many wrongs, but I really looked hard at a lot of these cards and thought, what was the show that really stuck with me as the half year ended? And the thing is, in terms of top to bottom, I don't think this was as consistent as for example, the All Japan Dynamite Series show a couple weeks ago. That was a top to bottom, everything was good, and then the main event was great. Show.
I have that in my honorable mention.
Yeah, you could say all of these are honorable mentions, on the votes here.
That's true.
But the thing is, though, the two matches at the end of New Beginning in Osaka were so great. Those would be two of my three best bouts, probably. You had the last meeting of Tanahashi and Okada on that show, which is a good match. It wasn't nearly obviously as good as their legendary matches, but it was a really good ending, and the ending with Ospreay as well. It felt like not only were great matches happening on that show, it felt like a turning point for the company. And unfortunately, kind of similar to Stardom's big show last year, it was more like the end of an era than necessarily the sign of things to come. But as a one-night show, and I will go to my grave saying they did not get nearly enough out of that cage match as they could have, because that was such a special and spectacular match. And you had Brian and Zach on there. That was the show that stood out to me. I just thought there's no other show that had a better 1-2 punch than that did. And you had a lot of great stuff on the undercard as well. And it just felt like the vibe of it was just a great thing overall. And they've never recaptured it since that show.
Well, I wouldn't say that they had a lot of great stuff on the undercard. It was an okay undercard.
Well, Tanahashi and Okada was the undercard. You had a terrible match.
I wouldn't really say that that's more of a mid card. When you look at the undercard,
I guess so. The undercard doesn't even matter really.
That's the thing here. Terrible stuff for the tag title. Terrible House of Torture match there. So, I went back and forth with this one and with the Despi Invitational. I ultimately went with the Despi Invitational for the reason that it as a complete show with the vibe that it spread, I liked it better than the New Beginning in Osaka show. The New Beginning in Osaka show was, from the wrestling standpoint and at the top, probably better than anything on the Desperado show, but the overall alignment of everything that happened on Despi Invitational had me convinced that this is going to be my show of the half year, and I'm sticking with that. But I will say that New Japan also had a 1-2 punch with this. New Beginning in Osaka is my number 2. And for my number 3, Dylan, I actually went to Limit Break 1, the first one in February. I just looked at the ratings that I gave to each show this year that I watched, and Limit Break has been on top. Has been one of the top shows that I've seen this year and voted for at number 3. It also, when you look at the entire card of Limit Break 1, it's not like there have been lots of standout matches on that card either, but it has been a very well put together card with some matches that you don't see every single time, every single show. So that also was a show that just left a lot of people happy with a Kirken Hall show from Noah that was just straight down wrestling and no bullshit.
Yeah, to me that was a vibe show with a great main event, with an exceptional main event. Well, that was one of the best matches of the year, in my opinion. Like the tag match on the Limit Break show. But if you look at the rest of the card, again, and also remember that was coming off of that Keno and Wagner show, which was like the crowd was like not into anything on that show.
Right.
And then this show comes in, and it's like we went from black and white, TV to color television. Like that's kind of how it felt like watching that Limit Break show. We went from timeless Tony to modern era, like in one thing, and the wrestling was so good in the main event that was awesome. The card didn't do a lot for me, like up and down, but it was a good show. There was nothing terrible on there either. So when vibes can go a long way. The only thing with Despy's show that maybe not vote for it is the main event being what it was. Yep. So like when you leave on such a bad note for me, it's hard for me to really like give you any kind of award for that. But I mean, it won. Like the Despy show won with the fans. This is again a very competitive award. We had a lot of votes for a lot of different shows. What about Grand Princess being the second?
Yeah. Yeah. Very good show as well.
And another one that felt like a changing of the guard moment as well, like similar to New Beginning in Osaka, where it felt like a new era for the company had arisen. I don't know, how it's not like they really boomed after that or anything, but for a one night show, it was really good. You had the Bloodsport show coming at number 3 on the votes, which
very surprising to me.
I mean, that was a great show. It's just like for me, I think the reasons that we were critical of that show were a little different. My versions were a little different than others. If you're gonna do a shoot style show, like I kind of hold it on a different standard of realism factor. So I love the concept, and I'm happy that it happened, but I couldn't vote for it. And I mean, and obviously the attendance factor was like the vibes on that show were great in terms of that it was something very special and unique and cool. But the crowd, again, that's the thing. Like that's kind of similar to Despy. Like they were both vibe shows ultimately. Like they weren't great shows, like top to bottom, like in terms of wrestling on there. I mean, same thing with like there's a lot of the shows like that, and that's what you look for, I think, in this award ultimately.
Yeah.
Because there are no shows that are like great top to bottom anymore. It's not like the old days where you had great shows like up and down. You have to just go with feelings a lot of the times. It's something that makes you remember them. Overall, if you analyze it too much in terms of a top to bottom show, you're going to have something to pick out on all of these. But if you have a good feeling coming out of it, I mean, same thing with DG, like the Dead or Alive show.
I was going to ask you about that show.
I mean, again, yeah.
So Dead or Alive, I thought it had a great ending, and it had a great tag title match, but when I'm looking at everything else on the card that hasn't been so spectacular, if I had to vote for a Dragon Gate show, it would probably be the finals of the Rede Parias tournament, with 2 great matches in the semifinals and an exceptional final with Dragon Kitanaru Kidoi versus Susumu Yokosuka and Yamato. And they had this amazing brawl with Zebrats and Natural Vibes, plus a very good 8-man tag with the D-Courage and Daiki Yanagiuchi against Gold Class and Ryo Fuda. So that was probably a better show than Dead or Alive overall, but it had this emotional ending, of course.
But not just an emotional ending. What that was like the culmination of so many story points that came into there. Yes, it was emotional, but it was also like a great storytelling, even on that show with the Strong Machine and UT match on the undercard, which played directly into the final. You got emotional moments out of it. They've been teasing the stuff with Jackie for months. It was like brilliant, like in terms of a serialized show, not necessarily like a wrestling show, just a story being told. Like that whole thing with the cage was so strong that I totally get why it stands out to people overall. Even though, like from a wrestling standpoint, that was not a great show, top to bottom. But it was like, again, the vibe of it all was so strong overall. And again, you could say that on everything.
Yep.
Wrestle Kingdom, I thought, again, like there's qualms to be had with the wrestling, but I said it when we reviewed it at the time. That show felt more like a true Wrestle Kingdom that we've seen in years, in my opinion, with the entrances, the things they did, the specialness of Brian coming in, the dramatic ending angle at the end of the show. That felt like so much like that Okada entrance is one of the greatest that there's ever been, in my opinion. With with the whatever that was, like CGI or whatever on his
who knows?
It was so freaking cool. And they did a lot of stuff. A lot of guys were trying different entrances, and I think that made it feel a lot more special. That's why it was up there in the top 5, I would say. And the final match of the top 5, or the final show of the top 5, what did you think of Wrestle Magic there? Again, the main event was great, and I loved the Sugiura and Kitamiya match. Like, that match ruled so much, despite what the inmates tried to say.
Yeah, I also thought that Wrestle Magic was pretty good.
Yeah, to me that wasn't a fantastical show, to be honest, but it was good. Like, it was a good show, and we had a lot of hype coming out of it. That was the most positive we've been about Noah, was after that show. Like, way more than the January 2nd show, I would say, and way more than last month's show for sure. So we'll see. I think it's all worth it, and a lot of great shows, and a lot of different promotions got representation here. You know, you had the one-off shows with Despy Invitational and Bloodsport. You had TJPW, New Japan, Noah, DDT, Dragon Gate, Marigold, All Japan, all getting more than, on one vote in the top half. So, you're getting good stuff, and so many different companies coming in there. That's good. And we even got a vote for shows that didn't even happen yet.
Summer Action Series, yes.
Yeah, so next month it's proven that we have a time traveler in the Eastern Lariat listenership, and we appreciate you for letting us know that we've got some great stuff to look forward to in that Summer Action Series coming forward.
Yeah, from this award of the best show, we've briefly discussed some of the matches already, Dylan. We're going to the best bout, and this has been very easy for a lot of people, I guess. We had Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. from New Japan Pro Wrestling in February on top here, and from my perspective, there is no dispute with that. I thought at the time that it would be hard to beat that match. I loved it from the very beginning until the end. Just perfect pro wrestling for my liking, and there has been nothing that in my opinion has come close to it. For the listeners, the match that has come the closest was the match between Sari and Mayu Iwatani at Stardom in April. And then it's getting more close and close. When we go down here, number 3 was Yuma Anzai versus Kento Miyahara in May. Bryan Danielson once again made it into the top 5 with his match against Okada in January. And then Mio Watanabe versus Mio Yamashita from March 31st. So that's the matches that we have here. I still think that the Warlocks versus United Empire, they also made the top 10. That is actually my number 2. I have the Danielson and Zack Sabre one on top, with the steel cage match being a close second, because that was just such an incredible spectacle, and just the unique nature of this weird cage being set there, and all these 10 guys trying so many creative spots from any vantage point of this structure that they've had there, and it was such an amazing spectacle to look at.
And one thing I loved about that match too is, like, by the end, that run time was long, like over an hour.
Oh yeah.
It worked in the context of this match. If you remember, by the end, this felt like a real war at the end, where the ring was coming apart, everybody was devastated, everyone was impacted, and I thought the finish was unbelievably good with all of the War Dogs cornering Ospreay at the end. Like, it was perfect booking, like an amazing spectacle match for sure, and one that I totally remembered right away as, like, oh man, this was a great match. I know that had some detractors from it, but I think time has smiled on it as we've gone along as something very memorable and special. Even though, again, it irritates me that those guys should have all been made as superstars after that match, and they totally fumbled it with all of them, pretty much. So, but I love that match a lot too. I'm so glad that it got a lot of love and respect on this.
One more match that helped to establish a guy more further, not to make him a superstar, but to keep him on the top of the promotion, was the Yuma Anzai versus Hideki Suzuki match from 6/24.
Yeah,
had to put it into my top 3. Which is, I couldn't make the cut for Sari and Mayu Iwatani, even though it was a special match. I have 2 more
That's interesting because I want to fact check on this right now because on the last episode we talked about this and I said that was my All Japan match of the year and you said you disagreed with it, if I remember correctly. So you've come around in the last 2 weeks.
I can't quite remember what else I had in mind for my All Japan match of the year.
Probably Kento, right? I mean, to me, they're close.
I don't know.
I thought the Hideki match was better too, so I'm with you.
No, I watched some of the parts again, and I began to see what you said about the Kaito comparisons. So I came around.
Yeah. See, look at that. No, I mean, I don't mind. I always say with the match of the year, you know, I mean, like last year we talked about the half-year awards. We were saying Ospreay and Omega was one.
Yeah.
And then you changed the year awards, and I don't think that's wrong if you. Like with the best bout, a lot of times it is what sticks with you. So I don't think it's wrong to change.
Yeah. And there have been 2 others that stuck with me. It's going to get some shout-outs here. It's, first of all, Billy Ken Kid versus Ryuya Matsufusa from January 7. An incredible match for the Osaka Pro Light Heavyweight Championship. In my opinion, that's the blueprint of a perfect underdog match with Billy Ken Kid going rough on Matsufusa's legs and him coming from behind to eventually win the match, and it was just amazing stuff. And I mentioned it, the Rey de Parejas final, Dragon Kid and Naoki Doi versus Suzuki Kusuka and Yamato. You mentioned it, Yamato has been outstanding, Susumu always outstanding, Dragon Kid and Doi, Team Nohawk, they've developed great chemistry. That was an amazing match.
No, that was really good. Like, and I love No Hug as a team. I think they've really struck gold with the Paradox in general, and I really like that match obviously as well. Sari Niwatani, what was kind of your overall feeling on that match? Because you didn't really rank it. Did you? You know, it didn't grab you. Was it great? But just you like these other ones better, or what did you think?
It's great. It was great, but I've always struggled with the structure of Stardom matches in comparison to other companies that I follow more, where I can sink my teeth deeper into the matches because I follow the wrestlers more than I do follow the wrestlers in Stardom.
Right.
That's always been my issue with the company.
Yeah, I mean, that was a dream match type of scenario. It was Sari coming in as an outsider. And I thought, like I said, if Iwatani and Tsuka had been allowed to go all out with their, I mean, I don't know if you saw that match, but...
I did.
Yeah. I thought they were really onto something before the injury, unfortunately, on there. So, like, Iwatani doing some great work for sure. That was my number 2. I had, like you, I mean, the thing is, Danielson and Zach, it's the boring choice, right? But it's the right one. So I, like, you know, I was very surprised how close it was, actually. I thought it was going to be a blowout early on, but Sari and Mayu got some support. And that would be my number 2, and I'm with you on the War Dogs and the Empire Cage match. Like, that was just something, you know, unbelievably spectacular. But I like all these matches. Like, Yuma and Kento was a great match. Like, really solidified Anzai. You know, what did you think of Watanabe and Yamashita then? Since we talked about the Stardom match, what did you think of the Grand Princess final as a match of the year? It didn't grab me that much. I actually thought
I struggled a bit with the high rating that it got. I watched it twice, and I came away both times thinking that the match was good.
Yeah.
I never came away thinking this was a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 match even.
I agree with that.
It's just, I don't know. I watched it twice and I still failed to pinpoint what it exactly was, but it didn't grab me as much as I thought it would because I'm a big fan of both. Mm-hmm. And it didn't grab me as much as prior Yamashita title matches.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought the match with Miyu and Slamovich was a better match in terms of in-ring this year. But yeah, I mean, that was a big moment, though. I think that meant a lot to a lot of people to see Watanabe finally get the belt on there. So I think the moment, it's kind of like the best show. It's like the vibes kind of carry you sometimes more than the nuts and bolts of a match. You know, Danielson and Okada, I thought that was really good. I know some people really loved it. But I don't think it was as good as the Zach match personally. But I mean, that was a legit dream match, whereas the Zack thing, it felt so special, even compared to their prior match, because you got to remember both of those matches already took place in AEW first with Bryan and Okada and Bryan and Zack. But to see the Okada match in the Dome, I think added a lot to a lot of people as well. Whereas the Zack match was just a new beginning.
Sure
Sara and Chihiro, great match. Like, well worth your time in January. Like, don't forget about that. You had the Kaito matches, like Keno and Wagner. I've said it before, the Keno match, that was good, but I didn't love it as much. I know a lot of people really like that. The Wagner match was great. Like, that was a great main event. But again, I kind of like the Sugiura match on the show a little better on Wrestle Magic, but I don't think that's a terrible pick at all. What about, I was so glad to see this get a little love. Daimaji So and Ito, the no ropes match.
I want to tie this together with Harashima versus Yuki Ueno.
Yeah.
Because I think both of these matches, both So versus Ito and Ueno versus Harashima, those are two of the most underrated great matches that have happened this year. Mm-hmm. And especially, just like we said it about the steel cage match, the unique nature of this no rope match made it feel special and made it stand out somewhat in the grand scheme of great that is a lot of stuff that they are trying to throw against the wall.
Oh yeah, and that's accurate. I mean, we can just look at what they're doing right now with Nakajima. Did you see that? Like Nakajima and Glate?
I have no words for that anymore. I did see it. I am puzzled.
I mean, you knew he was going to win.
Sure. I mean, he's walking into every company and is winning. Of course. I mean, yeah.
But the problem is that now they're talking about he's like, I'm bringing this to All Japan now.
Yes.
and the president's like, oh yeah, let's have it. It's like, man, listen, this President Fukuda, man, he's nuts. Like, I think we just have to admit that right now. But who knows what's going to happen? Like, nobody can predict Nakajima's run. The match was okay. I thought that match was so. That's another reason why it stands out.
I don't think that he's made for the style, actually.
Yeah. I would say that about both of them in that match.
Yeah. The finish was really weird.
It
was a pro wrestling style finish, and he didn't even get a great transition into the submission hold. It was just weird.
No, it wasn't at all. And I think that's why the no ropes match. I mean, Ito is somebody I really struggle with because they push him as this UWF guy, and I really don't think he fits it. I remember when he was wrestling in a shirt in Wrestle 1, but now you got him. I thought he did some great stuff. That no ropes match was fantastic. He had a match with Hikaru Sato, which was like one of the best I've ever seen in terms of a UWF style match for Ito. So a really big month for Ito in April, but that no ropes match, Daimaji So, really, just a really great wrestler and somebody that they should be having build around him. I think he's really good overall. That match I was really happy to see it get some love, but Glate, I don't know what they're doing. On that show, just briefly on the July 1st show, I really liked the SBK and Takuma versus Soma and Octagon Jr. match.
That was good.
Yeah, like it's nothing like blow you away, but it's a good undercard, high flying match.
What did you think about the GRX title, Hayato Tamura versus Yuki Ino?
It was pretty good, but not special. Like it was like a 3 to 3 1/4 star match.
It was much too long for these two.
Yeah. I mean, Ino, the thing with Ino is he's like a really basic wrestler. And I think that's why he benefits in the team with Endo, and it's really helped him a lot, because just on his own, there's just not a lot there, I would say. And Tamura's pretty good. I think we had higher expectations for him in this title reign when he won it. I mean, that match last year versus T-Hawk was a great match when he won the belt. But I don't think this reign, I don't know if anybody can really do a lot in Glate right now, but I liked,
what do you like?
I like the Barnett and Izuka match as well for a 3-minute match with like a really heavy like size difference that could have gone south. I thought they worked it really well.
I thought it was so weird to bring in Barnett for a 3-minute match.
Yeah, I mean, but what isn't weird about this company?
That's a very good point. On the topic of weird, Dylan.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned Takanori Ito and we also talked about the Gaora TV Championship, I want to give a shout out to Takanori Ito for being a 2-time Wrestle 1 result champion.
Bringing back the result title right now. Yeah, those are the good old days in Wrestle 1. Again, he's changed so much in this great run. But this Best Bout Award was so competitive. I loved it so much. I think I'm going to put together a thread of every match that got votes for us. So just to spotlight them on Twitter. Just so, it gives you something to look for. Maybe you didn't see all of these matches. I mean, we got some good matches. I mean, we had a match like Leighton Buzzard and Naoki from Big Japan in January.
Really good. I like that.
Yeah, that was a based vote, for us. You had this match with, you had the Keisuke Ishii and Katsumura match from Gambari Pro, which was a really strong match in April. Mascara Dorada versus Stuka Jr. from Fantastica Mania was a match on there. And yeah, it was just a really good list of matches we had here. So really, thank you to the listeners for really bringing it with the Best Bout Award. I thought we had a lot of great votes and great competitive spirit at the top with Sari and Mayu and Brian and Zach. That would be my top two as well, but I would move the War Dogs cage match up a little bit. But great stuff for the fans.
Good. We're moving along to the Kawada Taue Trophy for the Best Tag Team. Dylan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mentioned it. I feel like I grabbed some hearts last episode because I specifically mentioned FCC as one of the best tag teams.
You did grab my heart. You made it work.
And I did not grab the Okada's heart as he took the tag belts off of them immediately afterwards.
Sure, of course. I mean, it's the same company as New Japan Pro Wrestling. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this Okada has no clue about wrestling, clearly, booking-wise. I think that's been proven, despite the talent on his roster. And God's Eye is a wonderful tag team on paper, at least Shuri and Konami. But the thing about FWC, and I said this to somebody on Twitter, I think it was Lyric who voted on our awards, and I was saying, FWC was great 2 years ago and never got the roses they deserve. If you go back to their run, in 22, they were amazing. And I think if you're going to go for a most underrated, to me, Koguma has to be way up there. Because everyone always focuses on Hazuki. But in every role Koguma has, whether it's a more comedic character, whether having a singles match, she had that run with the Cinderella tournament a couple of years ago, or in this epic tag team with FWC, she's great at all of them. And I think she's just an amazing performer and way underrated. I think she should be somebody they really get behind. Mid the 5-star that's coming up, along with Hazuki, obviously. But that was a great pick, and I'm really happy. And I was really surprised to see them win, to be honest. I did not think they were going to win. And I think the big talking point about this award, at least for this half year, maybe by the year end it'll be different. But it looks like to me, because in my opinion, for Best Foreigner, Zach was the default pick. I was pretty sure he was going to win. I thought, and in years past, this has been proven true, that the Astronauts are kind of the default pick for the best tag team. And it looks like those days may be coming to an end based on these awards here.
Yep, they might be.
But I picked FWC too. I agree with the fans. I think that they have had a great year. I recommended matches in the past for them. I was hyping them up even a couple of months ago. But people really liked what they've done. Team 200 KG, Sihash and you, I thought they are a great team as well. Saito Brothers, great picks as well. All of those teams are good. I thought that a team that stood at my number 2, if I were to pick one, would be Los Golpeadores, Dragon Bane. Yeah, I thought they really made a tough spot work, in Noah. And I think they've done a great job with that as well. So a lot of great picks there. But at the end of the day, I would ride with FCC, but some good honorable mentions there and teams getting votes as well. No Hug got some support as well. I think from a story standpoint. Number 2, actually. Oh yeah, and from a story standpoint, I think they're just scratching the surface. By the year-end award, I think they could be a threat to win the award if they keep going how they're going as well. So really good stuff from them. What were your top 3 then?
My top 3 are FWC, Team No Hug, and the Saito Brothers.
So you went with FWC as your pick?
Yes.
Not the Saitos?
Yes.
Even though we love them?
We love them.
Even though June can eat candy? No.
Yeah, there has been this brief moment in time where Ray was injured, so I counted that in. They couldn't during that time.
Yeah. So and I mean, they had the singles run through the carnival. Both guys have had Like they've been like prolific singles wrestlers, which is like to me very good booking. As nuts as the president may be, he's actually done a great job with the Saitos, I think, as a tag team. And despite not being necessarily as like prominent as a tag team this year, they've kept them not just aligned as a team, but also as singles wrestlers as well. So I think they've done a great job with those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Very happy to see Daisy Monkey get some love too. I think they're the best people in Tokyo Joshi Pro as wrestlers. So really good stuff there.
Great run for Daisy Monkey as the tag team champions.
Yep. We had the War Dogs get some love. Clark and Drilla there. I don't really see them as one of my favorites, but they have been a storyline like constant in the junior tag division. I think the thing is, this is another one where it may be a me issue more than anything else. When you see New Japan Juniors, my interest just magically fades away with how they book them sometimes. So unless it's the tournament or a singles title match, like the junior tag titles may be the least valuable titles in a company with a lot of not valuable titles, I would say.
Yeah. What do you think about GLG, Jack Morris and Anthony Green?
They're okay. Like I didn't think they were that great, to be honest, but they're not bad either.
Mm. I think that their positioning has been strong, like I said on the last episode.
Oh yeah, they've been pushed great. Like out of everybody in Noah, they have been pushed better than almost everybody else.
Yeah,
except for Hayata.
Yeah, that's about it. What I can say about them. And yeah, that's.
What about you? What about the other GLG, Yohei and Tadasuke, also getting love as well?
Not a fan.
I think they're better than Jack and Green, actually. Like I like them as a team, actually. Yohei and Tadasuke. I think, but they've had the Gopiadores to wrestle as well, which helps. I think they work together pretty well. And I like them. I'll differ with you on that. I think they're a good team. Again, the problem is the junior division of Noah. It's hard to like get invested in any way. Shout out Wingori as well. Sayaida and Hanan getting some love on there. And like lots of good stuff overall. I wish that they would do one thing. I hope that they do in the second half is, which they haven't done at all in Noah. I would love to see Kaito and Alejandro get more of a run as a team because, like, people, that run was really good in DG, but there just wasn't the quantity again wasn't there as much as you would want it to be. But I think they're a great team if you look at them as a tag team.
And they even were in a team when they originally teamed.
Exactly.
Dragon Gate. They just figured, this is working out. Okay.
Yeah, like so they moved them into this faction together, and I hope they can get some matches together because I think they work despite not being a team at first. I think they have really good chemistry.
Yes. Okay, I guess that's it for this award. Or anything to add from your side?
No, congratulations to FCC. Love them both to death, and hopefully, we'll see what happens with the year end because again, they just lost the tag titles. I could see them not hanging on by the end of the year, but I'm hopeful that they can.
Yeah. For the Yushin Thunder Liger Best Junior Heavyweight Award, I can go back to what I said about TJP and Robbie Eagles. During the first award we talked about, they are definitely strong contenders for this award. I have TJP on 3, Robbie Eagles on 2. And El Desperado is my number 1. So once again, a complete swoop for New Japan Pro Wrestling here in this award. And I'm giving a honorable mention to Ryuya Matsufusa from Osaka Pro Wrestling.
I think it's time that you change your ballot to New Japan as your promotion of the year and give them all the awards on their fraud alert right now on the Eastern Lariat Awards. But no, I totally agree with you about TJP and Eagles. I thought they were phenomenal. Again, just stylistically, they're so good as wrestlers that you can't. And they've given, especially TJP, they've given a lot of love to Eagles. Like he hasn't gotten that love yet, but he's a good part of those undercard tag matches they've had as well. Like he always works hard too. That's another thing I like about both of those guys is that they always work really hard, even in meaningless undercard matches as well. I think this award, we've kind of reached that point again. This is we just debuted it last year. Mm-hmm. It's kind of new. I think this award is ultimately a junior award for Noah, All Japan, and New Japan because, like Dragon Gate and DDT and Osaka Pro and all of that, they're all juniors. Like almost like
right. It's been getting more different with Dragon Gate
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, nobody they have a hard time, I think, getting support because I think the weight. It's not like they're divided by weight class. That's more accurate. They're all juniors. Their titles are not divided by weight classes that much as directly as the New Japan.
The Brave Gate is.
That's true.
It's an 82 kilogram title.
That is true. But I mean, we've seen small guys go for the Dream Gate as well.
That's correct. Yes, it's.
Yeah,
but we've also seen junior heavyweights go for the heavyweight title in other companies. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we got a vote here for somebody who says I don't know weight classes. he wrote that. Yeah. Yes. Whoever you are a truth teller. The problem is that they don't also know weight classes.
No, nobody knows weight classes apparently anymore.
And that's the rough part of this this award overall.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of great picks. Desperado, I mean, the thing is, this was kind of like his year a little bit, where he got the big show, he got the final win in the Best of Super Junior, he won the title in the Dome. It's like they gave him everything.
Won the show.
Well, I mean, the most prestigious part of the year, obviously.
Fact is, he won the feud with Show.
In a terrible cage match as well. But, Desperado, always good. I think he's very popular in the West, for sure. Obviously, our awards show that, obviously.
Yeah.
We have data that proves this fact. Very popular in the West among fans, and a great look, really talented wrestler as well. And I think he's another guy that's kind of like a vibes wrestler a lot of times. I mean, look at that show he ran. He's like a mainstream guy with indie tendencies, kind of. And I think that appeals to a lot of people overall. Mm-hmm. And I mean, cool ass look, been around for a while, got a lot of fans. No, not surprising that he won, in my opinion. I wouldn't vote for him personally. I don't think, he's as good of a wrestler as other people like Abe. I think the thing with Abe, this was probably one of his lesser years, as a junior. So,
yeah.
But how can you compare? This is always the problem I run into with him. The quantity is just so strong that he has an edge over everybody, I feel like. I think it's not as dramatic this year as it was last year, but I still think he's probably the one I would pick overall. I mean, great wrestler, and it's another struggle with him because, again, a lot of his year is fighting heavyweights, not necessarily juniors. So is he really the spirit of the award? I always kind of go back and forth on him, in a lot of ways. But, I mean, a fantastic wrestler. We all agree on that. I would say I think Hikaru Sato has had a really underrated year as well. I think a lot of people will just say, Dylan likes Sato. But if you really look at his year, though, I think he's done a lot of great stuff. He's so unselfish in All Japan. He made that tag match with Yoshioka and Musashi, in my opinion, and made them look so good. He's shout out to Tenryu Pro, a tag team champion, of course, with Hideki Suzuki. Well, we all know and love him for that. He had the match with Zack on the Desperado show, which is really great. And he had a match with Ulka, which was really good as well on the One Night Dream show. Again, I had never seen Ito look as good in a UWF rules match as against Sato. And, they wrestled each other, Sato and Abe. And that was probably both men's best match this year as well on the Sato Produce show in March. And that was a fantastic match. So that I think that he's a guy that if you look at his run, he had the match with Minoru Suzuki. Again, I think Sato has a really great case for it. I think the thing with, some of these other guys is a lot of times, for example, like Jackie Kame, I love him and would vote for him as the best performer in Dragon Gate this year. I think the one thing he's missing is that big singles match. For him. And he got a lot of love in our votes. He was the number 3 player. But I think he's missing that one big single match.
They never put him into any of these opportunities.
Yeah, he had a match with Shun earlier in the year, which was really good. And he's done good in the opportunities he's given. And as a character and wrestler, I think he's among the strongest. If you count character, I think he's got more than all these other guys that we're talking about. And I think that's the nature of the promotion, right? I mean, it's hard to really have a great character in a lot of these companies as a junior. But I think he's really great. But I think he's missing that singles match. So, man, I'm really waffling on Sato and Abe even now I'm talking about it. I'm looking at Sato's resume. It's hard to argue that. The thing with Abe is a lot of his stuff is in Big Japan, which is like again fighting heavyweights, which I kind of like, morally question if like on principle if that counts for this or not. And Big Japan's just like we only have so many hours in the day at the end of the day, So I haven't seen a lot of those matches in Big Japan, to be honest. So it's tough. The quantity's still there though, so I think that was a good pick for the second choice. I think I would go with Sato, like if I had to pick one. But again, another one, kind of what I said earlier about the Dragon Gate, the weight classes. Same thing with Ueno and DDT. He's a junior, like there's no doubt about it, but there's no weight classes in DDT. So he's like like people look at him as a main eventer, which I think they automatically don't think of as a junior.
That's correct, yeah.
But he's great. I think he's had a fantastic year. I mean, we saw him get votes in the other categories. So it's interesting how that works. What about Hayato getting that?
Rising Hayato?
Yeah.
See, I've not been in love with his junior title run.
I agree, and that's what I was thinking. And I had high expectations when he won it. Yeah, but I mean, he did get some love.
He did. Couldn't get behind him though.
Still giving love to that Dan and match from earlier, Iwamoto match from earlier in the year as the most underrated match for sure. But yeah, we got to vote for Ospreay, who is has not wrestled in Japan, nor has he been a junior in like 4 years. But yeah. There, I think Doi should get more love because he does good stuff in multiple promotions as well.
He does, but also he's not been categorized, I guess, as a junior heavyweight early in this year. He has been doing the tag run with DK, and in All Japan doing more multi-man stuff. I think that might be coming now with him getting back into the junior title scene in All Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff, and maybe one day we will figure out weight classes for this award. but congratulations, Desperado. Well deserved. I figured he would win, and he did, and he won in dominant fashion as well. I think we're getting into a run of like big wins for people. Like all the main awards, it's like the fans had their they knew what they wanted here, and we saw it take place.
Landslide victory number 2. Here for the Tanahashi Trophy, the best in-ring wrestler, male or female. Want to stress that specifically here because Sari won very dominantly above Kaito Kiyomiya and Zack Sabre Jr. Dylan.
Yeah, again, I think if you look at her, it's like in terms of batting average, there's nobody who could touch her. In terms of percentage of matches you're in that are also great, she's the right pick on there. If you just, and I mean, she's a fantastic performer as well. Like at the end of the day, I think it's very easy to just say, let me get my spreadsheet out and look at the best matches of the year, and we're going to determine the best wrestler is. And I think that's not always the best way to look at best wrestler, like this award, in my opinion. I think you have to look at how they wrestle in the ring. Somebody could have a fantastic performance in a not great match, in my opinion. I think that counts for me anyway. And she's great in all of her matches. So, Sari was my pick as well, to be honest, and I think she is the right choice. Not a lot of competition. After her, it's like there's a lot of competition for second. Things are kind of close. Kaito as number 2, I think is interesting. I think the title matches he's had, like the Wagner match and the Gabe Kidd match, were both really strong. There's no doubt about that. And the tag run was great with Alejandro and also Oiwa, again, earlier in the year. I thought they did a good job. Not great. Not as great as the team in Dragon Gate, but I thought they did a really good job with that. So he's got a well-rounded year. I don't know if I would say he would be an elite, output guy this year, in my opinion. But, I mean, the fans are telling us, no, Dylan and STRIGGA, you're wrong. He is one of the best workers.
Well, I guess it comes down to taste. And
I mean, I love him as a wrestler. He's a great performer. I just don't think his output has been as strong as others. I mean, compare him to Anzai.
I will. I will mention some wrestlers still in here that I thought had a better first half year. First of all, there's just from a factual standpoint, much like you said, the output, there's nothing that you can say against Sari on top. She's been incredible. I loved her matches in Sendai Girls the most this year. Great stuff all around. I want to give you 3 more. Number 2, I have Yuma Anzai. Much like I said, I was not too in love with the Champion Carnival run, but especially the mid part of it. He had a great match with Honda, and he had the great match with Suwama in the Champion Carnival, and just had incredible title matches with Kento Miyahara and Hideki Suzuki, and also leading up to that Suzuki match, just incredible chemistry with Hideki Suzuki.
And he's a guy, I just want to say on him real quick, he's a guy, now that he's got the belt, I mean, again, he may lose to Suwama and everything goes awry with him, but if he keeps this belt, he's to the moon. Like, because he's money. Like, every match he's in, every performance he's in, it's only going to be great matches, like, until the end of the year. If he keeps getting put in big spots, he's going to deliver. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Then I wanted to spread this out a bit, and I went with Yuki Ueno, number 3. When you
got a lot of love.
Yeah, when you look at the output that he had this year, he had the match with Yuki Unaya, average rating of 7.75 in cage match. Even the Danjoko Dino match got a lot of love with 8.02. He was in this tag match with Zack Sabre Jr. and Chris Brooks that also got shouted out, 8.65. Exactly, yes. The Harashima match, like I said, was very, very good, 8.75. Akito versus Yuki Ueno, 7.22. We have even the match with Sanshiro Takagi was one of the best Sanshiro Takagi matches in ages. So great output from Yuki Ueno. And my final one, that's an honorable mention. I went back and looked at the first half year, and I love to do that with that guy, Dylan. You know that. Shingo Takagi. Look at Shingo Takagi's first half year.
And he got some votes. He was in the top 10.
Yeah. So it started out with Tama Tonga's best match in New Japan Pro Wrestling in forever. 8.16 on cage match. He then went to Dragon Gate to have an incredible match with Masaki Mochizuki, 8.57. Then straight away went to America to have a brawl with John Moxley, 8.66. We're going to the New Japan. No, even before that, the Taichi match in February, 7.78. Then it was it the New Japan Cup? Yeah. The match with Yuya Uemura, very strong match as well. And then, of course, the matches for the Never title with Gabe Kidd and with Hinare. So strong performances once again from Shingo Takagi.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. Like, there's no doubt about it. I think he's been one of the solid mid-card guys that they have. And I mean, he's another guy. If he comes in and has a huge G1, I think that's going to go a long way for people in terms of the votes going in there. So yeah, he's great. No mention of Zach, who was the top 3 guy.
I just want to spread it out a bit more to get more names into my top places.
Thing with Zach is, again, he had the best match of the year, so it's like that's always going to be there. And like, he's very consistent in terms of his Japanese output for sure. I think he's another one. Again, if G1 goes well for him and he has a big run, he's a guy that we'll be able to look at the end of the year awards. But I don't think his half year was as great as others, like at least purely in Japan. I don't count what happens outside of Japan for these awards. Like for me personally, like I said, that doesn't matter in how I vote. I mean, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but Zach, great run. I think it's worth mentioning. Ueno, totally agree on. I'll have more to say about him later. Kento, always like that consistent guy, and always steps up in big matches. He's like the big match player of Japan. Like, he's not always like the best at these tour shows or whatever. He's kind of more gimmicky, but if you put him in a big match, he always delivers in there. Iwatani getting in there. Ishii, as I said, I kind of pleaded last week for people to consider him, and he got a little love, but not that much ultimately. But still, I think he's out of the G1 this year, so that ends any hope for the year end for sure.
Yeah.
But still, great work. Again, if you look at Ishii's run, I think if you compared his run to Shingo's, he would compare very favorably, in my opinion. But he doesn't get nearly enough credit or love for it for whatever reason. So I think that he's great. And a lot of interesting picks here. We'll see how the second half goes, but I think Sari was the right pick for the half year. Interesting that Kaito got second place, I thought.
Yep. And before we go to the top two, the final two categories, the MVP awards, we have one that is really down to the wholesomeness of professional wrestling because it's the best moment. And once again, I guess this comes down to personal liking, but because we got so many votes, I think we got a good perspective on what was beloved in Japanese pro wrestling in the first half of 2024. From the listeners, we have Naito's Dome post match, the roll call. First of all, Dylan, I need to give you a shout out for assembling all of these different typings of the very same moment.
Yes.
So shout out to you for that.
That's true. I put in a lot of work, guys. It's
Yes.
no lie on here. And even the Dead or Alive one, like there was, when there's various, I had to weave in to that as well. So, yeah.
So Naito's Dome post roll call got the number one position, the best moment of the year for our listeners. Number two is the Dead or Alive post match. And number three, Mio Watanabe wins the Princess of Princes title. I want to agree with two of them that I also have in my top three. It's Mio Watanabe winning the POP title, number three. Number two is something that also got shouted out, but not as strongly. It's Fujita Junai Hayato appearing in the New Japan Pro Wrestling Rumble. Great moment, in my opinion, and strong words of just incredible willpower after the match that he's going to once again beat this terrible disease that is haunting him. And for my number one, you said it perfectly. It's the Dead or Alive post match and the Dead or Alive main event. It put together so many storyline strings over the last couple of months in Dragon Gate. I mentioned, for me, it's the end of the match. Jackie Funky Kamai finally joins with Big Hawk. Had been letting go from Natural Vibes. Just such an emotional moment for a lot of Dragon Gate fans that got my number one.
Yeah, in terms of a storytelling moment, I think that has to be the best one. Again, it was so well done in so many ways. Like, everybody benefited from that somehow. It was like a very bittersweet moment, too, which I think is interesting. A lot of times the best moment, you want a real positive, like, triumphant thing as well. But I think emotions of any sort, if you have if you have a very emotional moment, I think that should count as like a top thing.
It's even closer to real life when you have moments like these that can be very positively emotional and negatively emotional at the same time.
Yeah, there was good and bad, the Dead or Alive thing. Miyu winning the Princess title was great too. A lot of these moments were really cool, really great as well. I thought the Naito angle was so well done as well. I thought that was a phenomenal thing that they did. They captured so much goodwill of that. Not just with Naito, but Sonata as well. His role in that, I think, was really great. I thought it was interesting how a lot of people voted for Anzai defending the title against Kento. I wasn't 100% sure he would win. I was a little fearful that Kento might win, but I thought he was going to win in that match. To me, I thought him winning and I think just because the winning the title was such a bad, poorly done thing, that him defending against Kento kind of took the place of him actually winning the belt to some people, just based on how it worked out. To me, though, I just think that the Junior moment at the in what could be his last match. I think that had to be number one for me. The DG thing was great. The Naito thing was amazing. This is my favorite award because I think that there's so many great moments that really make things again. And if we're being honest with ourselves, this is a definite down period of Japanese pro wrestling. That's just a factual statement. But it goes to show that even in down years, look at all of these things that happen, like that makes wrestling like the best thing ever in the whole world. And I think all of these moments play a part in that. And I mean, the junior thing again, that was an amazing thing to get a dome spot for him, but tragic because of what the circumstances are of it as well afterwards. That's another one where there's a high emotional factor into that. I think another one is the Asahi tribute on the Actors Girls show.
Oh yeah.
When I saw that, that was there was no good to that. It was tragic, like completely. It was other than it allows you to express these emotions and this pain that you feel, and especially the wrestlers in the ring, because that show ended with the whole roster in the ring just in tears, and it was real emotions, and it reminded me of stuff. And a month or so ago, my cousin died. And that was the first time I ever went to a funeral, to be honest with you, like that. Mm. And those emotions of somebody's tragic passing. Again, my cousin was 3 years younger than me. He was still in his 20s. So it was a very tragic thing. And to see those emotions, it's so vital and important to get all of that out. I would say, even though it was a sad and tragic thing, I thought hopefully it was helpful to all the wrestlers and all the fans that loved her. A very sad, tragic passing for Asahi. So I think those moments are very important as well, even if they're not positive per se. I think seeing that and giving that time and that grace to these people, these human beings, never mind wrestlers, was very important as well. And I wanted to mention that. It didn't get any votes, and I don't think it really fits a best moment per se, but I thought it was very good that they got the chance to exhibit those emotions and that pain that they were feeling. Again, that's how I felt at the funeral for my cousin as well. And to see it in a wrestling form is terrible, of course, but I think very vital as human beings that we feel these ways.
Absolutely, I couldn't add any more to that. So yeah, we got a lot of great shout-outs actually.
Yeah, that's what I said. This is my favorite award because all of these are really good votes, I would say. Except for the one where Ozaki beat Momino. The title. I would say.
I mean, Bryan Danielson wrestles in the Tokyo Dome. That had to be so far high on his bucket list of things that he wanted to accomplish.
And a legendary moment for any fan of his as well. You're getting to see something that for years and years you probably never thought was even possible.
Yep.
Hinare in the cage.
Yeah.
Got a big moment. Zack Sabre and Chris Brooks kissing each other.
Yep, great moment as well. Yep.
You got stuff going in there. I love the Brian Mox Okada Ishii team up at News Dash. That was good. The Terry Funk tribute at the 70th anniversary show for NTV. That was another very emotional moment there. Mako returning. I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Unfortunate dream. What about Suzuki with a gun?
Suzuki has done crazier things, I think.
That's true as well. What about again Asuka challenging Mayu? That was one of the top ones, with the EO coming in reveal with Utami. I mean, that got memed to death. Utami's emotional reaction there. I mean, and that's another one. I think that's another thing that for me personally is a big thing for these awards. Real emotions show, not necessarily because there were some votes that were so and so wins the belt, which is a good that. There's real emotions to that. Don't get me wrong, but something like that, where this was literally her dream coming true, in front of her, and she had this true emotional reaction, was amazing to witness.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say that the Tsukasa Fujimoto challenge was more surprising because we figured that Io Sky would be involved somehow into that Marigold show. But the emotional reaction that Tommy showed definitely beat that other challenge.
And I mean, the Suka and Mayu thing, the great thing about that is that's something that was years and years in the making. I remember when they were going to do Thunder Rock versus Best Friends, and it fell apart for political reasons. But we're finally getting this dream match. And I mean, it's a shame about the injury, but if there's a silver lining, hopefully Suka can recover and get back. And everybody's basically teased that, hey, we want to do this match again, pretty much. And if they could do that, I think that could they could finish this chapter of both of their careers in a positive light as well. And I hope for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah. Top two. First of all, the Manami Toyota Trophy, the Yoshi MVP, once again, landslide victory for Sari. What can you say, Dylan?
The thing is that there's some controversy with this award. Some people, because the thing is, and I think this is a thing, these awards, they give us stuff to learn from, like these votes and things like that. We got a lot of votes, and again, we're very grateful for that. But for the half-year awards, the most vital thing is that we can learn something and glean something from how people voted. I think both of these MVP awards have told us, like, one thing very loud and clear, that business metrics are out the window right now because everyone's down. Because this award, ideally, and we've said it before, there's been plenty of times in the years past we brought this point up, that this award, MVP, does not favor freelancers in an ideal circumstance. But because everyone's so down and fractured and splintered, that opens the door for somebody like Asari, who, again, and we always say, how I judge these awards and how I vote and how I think everybody should, like, ideally, is if so-and-so retired on December 31st, who would impact things the most if we lost them for this year? And if you look at Sari, her run, she had her produce shows, she had her run in Sendai Girls, she had her big match with Mayu, one of the biggest matches of the year for them. She's basically the top star of Marigold to start things off, which is a vital thing. You lose so much. Even though she's a freelancer, she made the biggest impact of the scene as a whole, and I think she's the only accurate choice.
Yeah. There's nothing to add. I'm looking at the others. Mayu Iwatani. One in front of Maika. I would also say that is accurate because Maika, yes, is the red belt champion, but Mayu Iwatani still is the heart and soul of Stardom.
Yeah, and to be honest, she's just had better matches than Maika.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another thing, like, determining these two awards. I think the fans, that's what really grabbed a lot of them, is like, who did we like? They didn't think of, because again, like, the business metrics are out the window. Like, things are so down right now.
I wouldn't even vote Maika as highly because, like you said, what would happen if she wasn't around? I don't think that Stardom would look much differently.
Yeah, it would just be Suzu in that role, and she probably had the same struggles and same. And Maika is a great worker. Again, I think she's done as good of a job in a really bad situation as you can. But I mean, her reign is like, you can't say it's been good because of so much surrounding her. Unfortunately, and she's great, and I love her, and it's nothing against her personally, but it's just the title reign has not been it, and I think they're still trying to find a way to move forward, and hopefully they can move forward. Even though, again, I will say that I do think, like, Stardom dooming is not as accurate as it could be, but it's still bad. I mean, you cannot lose all of these people and all the disarray of the company and it be a good year. And unfortunately, she's at the face of it. It's like when Jeff Jarrett was the champion in WCW, kind of. Like, he himself wrestled good. It's just everything else was so terrible around him that he's like the face of this sinking ship almost. And it's not that bad at Stardom again, but that's how it feels like. Like, the company does not have goodwill right now, and she, unfortunately, is at the face of it. Whereas somebody like a Suzu can do her tag run and not face those criticisms as directly.
Yep, that is correct. I did put in Io Watanabe to my top 3 because she's the one project that really needed to happen in the TJPW. They had to bring that across, that she's a top star now. And even though that the title matches that she had weren't really big, the draws have been okay for TJPW. Not sure, like I said, the business metrics probably can't be really attached to this time of the year.
I don't know if I agree with that way of thinking, but I think that's how it was. I mean, I don't think that's the right way to go about it because I think there's still stuff we can learn at this point, even though it's down. But I just think people threw that out a lot.
But even if you look at, like, for example, the matches, the Bert Vixen match, there was not a strong card that Mio and Bert Vixen was on top.
Yeah.
Still drew more than 700 people for TGPW. I mean, they had Yuki Arai versus LA Taylor in the semi-main.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great, but it was not a good promoted show either. So I guess you can't blame them.
I mean, Grand Princess did well for them, so.
And hey, that match with Vert was a good match too there as well. Yeah, the Grand Princess, that's one of the things that's very interesting because that show was at Ryogoku, like Sumo Hall, right? And it's looked at as like 2,300, and we're coming up to that Marigold show, and the reports are that it's 2,500 already, like for a company 1 month in. So I think that's really interesting that they've really jumped up so fast.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, we'll see what the walk-ups are on that. I mean, if they could get over 3,000, and the thing is, that's the problem with judging business metrics these days. In all honesty, reality, Ryogoku is an 11,000 seat arena, and we're looking at 3,000 as a good number. And sure, there's context in that, but at the same time, it's also like, okay, so if again, we're going to make sports references here today. Although last episode we did have the epic moment of you getting one of my video game references with Assassin's Creed. So I appreciated that so much. A very wholesome Eastern Lariat moment, my friend. So like my football team in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, were the worst team in the league last year. They did a horrible, horrible job in so many ways. They were the WCW of NFL last year.
I get that.
So, they had 2 wins. They were 2-15. I think you could get that too. Like 2 wins and 15 losses. If they win 4 games, you could say, man, they doubled their win output last year. They're really on the come up. Oh man, it was a good year. They really improved. But you still had 4 wins. Like that's still bad in reality. But if you contextualize it, you could make it seem kind of better than it is. And I think that's where we're at with wrestling in Japan right now. Like you could have these poor numbers and make them seem better than they are just because the context makes everything seem so bad coming in there. So Miyu, TJP to me, I think they're kind of in a bubble, like their own bubble almost, where if you're a big fan of theirs, you probably like what they've been doing. But I don't sense any kind of buzz for them outside of that, to be honest. Even with this title reign, which I think was kind of their ace in the hole they would have, I don't sense them making any kind of big waves outside of that, unfortunately. And I mean, Miyu's a great wrestler, so I'm really a big fan of hers, and I'm glad that she got the belt. And her matches have all been good. Again, even against Vert, I thought she made her look really good in that match. So good stuff there. I think it's a fair pick. I mean, again, if TJ lost Watanabe, I think that would be really bad for the company. Like if she wasn't around on there, I think Seahash deserves a lot of love too for her freelancer run type of deal, like outside of Sendai, and obviously in as well. She's just great in every situation. She's another one of these people that are like, no matter what you do with her, tag team, freelance, go to other companies, be the ace. Like she could do everything and be great at it. Overall, so she'd probably be my number 2, besides Sari. Besides that, I mean, it's there's just not a lot of good options. So ultimately, I think this is the same thing. We had the same issue last year, I would say, with the Joshi scene. Yeah. They're just so down. You kind of just have to go with who you like the best, almost on there. But I think Mayu's had a great year. But I agree that her run hasn't been like super influential as it has been in years past. So I think Miyu probably meant more to her company than a lot of the Stardom wrestlers. So I could go with her as number 3 as well. And we'll see what happens with Marigold as well. Again, if Sari wins the belt, I mean, there was a lot, they reached the 11th hour with Julia, like if she was going to get cleared for this event or not. That just got announced yesterday. So, I mean, if that had not gone right.
It was very smart of Marigold to wait as long as they did to announce that this match is happening, because I mean it was always going to happen.
So you've got that wrestling cynic gene I passed along to you now. There, you've learned from my ways of being a cynical asshole all these years, much like Stan Marsh. But yeah, no, yeah. See, no respect for the kayfabe of Julia's injury, no. But It should be a great match. And we'll see what happens with Mario Gold. I think we're still in that formulation stage of Mario Gold. We don't know who the top people are like right now, really. I mean, we know who they are right now, but we don't know who's going to take the reins ahead. And we'll see what Utami, Julia, Sari are the ones that they're booking around right now. And Mirai has been very over with the fans as well, but she's stuck in this Auno draw feud that they have going on. So we'll see what's going on with them and how it plays out at the end of the year. I don't have a good finger on the pulse on where we'll be at the end of the year with this award. And I think that's kind of where we're at. But I think we can learn that any kind of the old ways of they have to be vital to the company isn't as vital this year as they've been in other years. And that's why Sony was able to jump up.
Yep. True. So this is it. The Kenta Kobashi MVP award for the overall MVP winner, and I think we need to stress that more, that female talent is eligible to be voted for this award, because if people had been more aware of that, I'm certain that Sari would have gotten more votes and would have also come close to the top 3 or top 5.
Yeah, and she was already close to the top 5.
She's close to top 5 still, though. She got so many votes for the Yoshi MVP that I figured
she could have won this. Let's just be honest. I think she might have won, and I think she would have won personally if it had been more clear.
I have her on number 2. To me,
and that's on me. I just want to say I do apologize for not making that more clear myself. Actually, I mean I said it on Twitter a bunch of times. I responded to people that hey, vote for Sari. It's okay. Girls, Joshi wrestlers are totally allowed. But I should have made it more clear on the ballot, and I personally apologize. We'll fix that for the year-end awards for sure, and I guess that'll answer our questions at the year-end award. If she gets a ton of votes, it was okay, I guess not. So yeah. But go on with your votes.
To me, it was so obvious that Tetsuya Naito had to be the one, because about what you said, in what state would New Japan Pro Wrestling be after Okada left? After Tanahashi is no longer in a state that he is able to wrestle in these main event matches, and I mean Naito isn't far away from that either, but what would happen if Tetsuya Naito wasn't around for New Japan Pro Wrestling? There is just nobody that could have carried the company, that could have carried the belt in the first half of 2024, and even with the Moxley brief intermission, or the interlude, he has always been presented as the top star, and he still is. He gets to wrestle all the young talent. The young talent wants to wrestle him. They even now are going to the Hiromu Takahashi story once again. He is the focal point of anything that is happening in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's the focal point of the press. Whenever they have an article about him, it's the most talked about. Tetsuya Naito is the guy for New Japan Pro Wrestling still, and that's why he's my number 1.
That's a stunner. I did not expect that, to be honest. I think that what you say is accurate, though. You're not wrong with what you're saying, I would say. I just think the first half of the year, his push was so... I mean, the second half of the first half of the year was kind of nothing. To be honest, they took him out, they put him on the bench, probably to protect him after they saw his matches the first year.
There was really no question that he would win the belt back, right?
No, yeah, of course we knew. Yeah, we all knew that was going to happen. I would say you're totally right on that. Again, when they flipped the belt to Moxley, we were on this show. I said it. I was against that. I thought it was a really poor idea to break up this title reign, but they got the American money that they desperately wanted with Moxley. They got their American fan base. They were able. It was a really smart idea to do it at that particular moment because it was so close to Super Junior time to where you could do it. You were able to go through that. You had a bunch of weak challengers. Moxley's reign was terrible, but not really his fault. He was feuding with House of Torture the whole time, ultimately. So you didn't really blow any big matches to the point where he wasn't even in the main event of Dominion, but it still did okay. With the Super Junior final main eventing, and hopefully. Again, that move of them main eventing Dominion could see payoffs. I don't want to say will, but it could see payoffs for years to come if the fans buy into the juniors more as main eventers now,
Mhm.
especially after this tournament. So I thought it was a really good move.
Yep.
I was against it at first, but hey, I think for what they wanted to accomplish, it really worked out. It really worked out as best as they could have hoped for. But Naito is MVP. He is the star player for sure. But if you really look at his run, the dome number was not as spectacular as I think they wanted. I mean, they did less than 30,000, less than the Muto show last year.
You're correct.
His rematch with Sonata was not significantly better than the Osaka New Beginning show with no title match on it. It was based around the cage and Brian and Zach. The match with Tsuji did a very good number in sumo, like in context, and I think that was very important. I guess we'll see how it plays out. I personally don't think Tsuji gained that much from that match. I don't get that vibe personally. I thought he gained more from the Cup final to me. And ultimately, Naito is a terrible performer. Right? And it's hard for me to really overlook that. To me, he is worse than Tanahashi and Ishii, like in terms of the output he's got. I mean, he's not far off from Muto level to me, like right now. I think he's just like that Kenta style where he's just bad. I mean, the matches with Sonata, the match with those were awful matches, and I think people excuse them a lot because like he got this big win and people are into it. And now the thing is, the blue's coming off the rose because he blew it again against Moxley in the Forbidden Door, and everybody knows how terrible that was and how awful he looked. And it's time to get rid of this Destino, man. He's botching it every time he does it almost. It's time to move on. Like, he can't do it anymore. And this is it to me. Like, this run to the Dome, whatever they're planning to do with the G1, this is it. Like, I don't think there's anything left in the tank beyond this Dome match with him. Like, I think he's really, really near the end, and possibly for his own safety at this point. That's how bad he is. So I cannot give him the MVP when he's one of the worst people on the roster to me, like in terms of wrestler, and he's not. The numbers don't support him being a difference maker.
Imagine this company without him.
I mean, again, like we saw that for 3 months basically without him, and they did okay. Like in terms of a main spot, it's not like it was like this dramatic downswing. I think that will be proven again by the Dome. At the end of the day. And again, this Dome number was not spectacular against Sonata. And I thought it would be a lot better, to be honest. But we'll see. Like, again, the numbers we see right now through the first half of the year don't support him being significantly, like, better than, matches without him or shows without him. And, I mean, we'll see. I mean, he is the top star. He's their one guy they have left.
Yeah.
They booked a whole block of the tournament around him.
Yes.
And we'll see. I mean, I did on the patreon.com/Eastern Lariat. I did a full preview of the G1. I predicted every single match of the tournament. And I had him advancing, in the number one seed. So we'll see if he can turn it up. I think they were really smart in how they booked the G1. They started off with Shingo and Zach as his first two opponents. If he can deliver in those matches, just get something out of him there, that's going to go a long way. Because I think people will overlook these dog days of G1. Mm-hmm. They want to see the first 2 days and the last 2 days as important. And even the company books it that way. If you look at the venues they book, that's how they book it, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And occasionally the Korakuen shots in the middle. But to me, I don't see it. Like, to be honest. Like, I know he's a big star. And his match with Jake bombed. Like, in the main event spot as well. In the United Japan. Which they were, I mean... Yes,
I would still go and say that's the entire project is just doomed.
And it is, and it's bad, and you were right about that. But even still, this was their guess, like their last guess to make something of it, and it didn't work. Like they counted on him to save it, and he couldn't. And I think in years past he may have been able to on there. So, but I mean, we'll see. Again, we'll see in the end. I just think it's tough right now. Again, I think you have to throw the business metrics out, or you don't have to, but I think a lot of the fans did. What do you think of? Yeah.
Let me ask you one more, guy.
Yeah.
What do you think about Katsuhiko Nakajima?
Again, the thing with him is there's no evidence that his run in All Japan was anything but successful, like from a purely numbers standpoint. But the company was in such disarray at the time. Again, like he's kind of the face of a weird, turbulent period.
Yep.
Even if a lot of it wasn't, I mean, it was with the lawsuit and all of that stuff. Like that, that clearly caused a lot of issues. But I mean, again, he's been off for 3 months, so like to me, he's not even he's a non-factor for that reason. Ultimately, you can't be gone for half the year and then get the same love as these other guys. And I mean, the ending with Nakajima and Anzai, I just thought that was just a terrible, horrific. Yeah, just a huge screw up. like that whole thing was done very poorly. But all of his shows did good, and he wrestled good and everything up to that point.
He got a lot of attention to All Japan Pro Wrestling, not only in Japan but internationally.
Do you think that? And I that's absolutely factual. How do you think that plays into Anzai's case here? Because you could argue like he's doing great and the vibes are great, like they're immaculate and he's a great wrestler. We all love him so much. But it's not like they were like he took them from a place that was already on the upswing, and they're still at that good level that they were already at. It's not like they were down bad and then he saved them. Like they were already doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard to say before the Zawala match now because
that's true.
Everything might be crumbling with one bad decision. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I have him up there because they made him work, and he made it work.
Yeah, he made it work. It would be more accurate.
I mean, they gave him these 2 strong victories over Kento Miyahara and Hideki Suzuki now.
They did. You're right. That's fair. That's totally right. You were right on that.
He made it work, and they let him get these victories. I wouldn't have thought that he would make it out of that black hole of whatever that Nakajima match was, which is why I have him so far up.
I think he would be my. What do you think of the winner of the fans right here, Kaito?
Yeah, Kaito. I don't know, man. I didn't expect Kaito Kiyomiya to land this position.
Yeah, this was a stunner to me. Like at the first part, like the widespread support of it. This was a dominant win.
Yeah,
like he more than doubled Anzai's vote, who was the number 2 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like here, I mean, this man, and again, he's a fantastic wrestler. Like there's no doubt about that. But I just think that his year this year, what has been so great about it? Like ultimately, I would love to know.
Has he been great at the box office either?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the match with Kid, that was another one and that was that weird that week or whatever where every show bombed. Like it was like that show bombed, the United Japan show bombed, the Desperado show bombed with a show, not the invitation out, but the one with show.
I mean, I guess you can give him Wrestle Magic, but that was I think more of a entire show deal than the main event.
And even that, again, like we're having to contextualize an actual, like that was half what New Japan did in that same venue, like 1 month prior.
That's right. Yeah.
Like I said, so like we have to like, they're a smaller company, like, and I mean, the company that owns them is not smaller, like the Bushiroad, but they are smaller in terms of name value right now. But still, again, for them, yes, it's a very good number to do 3,500. But in reality, it's not something that really this proves that he's now a superstar player, and especially the month after it, like that did not work, like the thing with Kid.
And it's not like he has been the dominant guy. You mentioned it. He basically won the title out of nowhere.
It was literally like, again, if you look at the first 3 months of his year, he was feuding with Evil, did nothing for a little while. Had the tag league run with Oiwa, and then they were like, all right, Wagner, I mean, who knows what the deal was with that? Because, I mean, he won the belt, then disappeared as well. They were like, all right, we need to get the belt off Wagner. Our only choice is Kaito now, so we're going to heat him up. Because then they went with it was Kaito versus Keno. Kaito beat Keno, then Jake back-to-back to earn a title shot. But it was within the span of a couple of weeks, He didn't feel like the heated-up guy before that. And we'll see. I mean, again, maybe this will look better, and maybe the fans will be the ones that have the last laugh over us if this does a big show, they're in the main event. Like him and Yoichi, they're finally giving the title shot proper respect, finally, which they should have done years ago in these big shows. If this does a good number, then my opinion will, like, this justifies this vote if that happens. If this does a better than expected number. If this does 3,000 or lower, with AJ on the card, with Nagata coming in, I think that's not going to be a great factor. But again, I think the voters, again, I don't want to speak for them. Like, I'm happy to listen to any explanation. But it feels to me like they threw business out with this vote. Like, like things are so down. And again, even Naito's not really making that much of a difference ultimately, like based on what we have. So even if the top star is not making this huge difference, then why even care about anything? Like, that's how it feels like to me, like right now. Like, everything's down, so screw it. Kaito's the best guy. Which I disagree with also. I think Anzai would be the one that I would pick too. But my point is, let me throw a scenario out to you, because I've agonized over this choice. Has Ueno, if you took him out of DDT, you mentioned those matches. Yeah. Anzai is having great matches with Kento, Hideki, Suwama. Ueno is getting the most out of Dino and Sanshiro Takagi.
Yeah. Ueno? Go on.
Without him, where would DDT be right now?
That is a very good point. Would have been the next guy I would have asked you about after Nakajima, because I also have him up here. It dawned on me when I put together that list. Matches that he has been great. Unfortunately, though, with the DDT, I mean, I don't have it in front of me how well his. Let's see.
Yeah, let's take a look here. This is live studying right now, people. We've got the facts and the numbers. We use a website called cagematch.net, which you can find all of your Japanese wrestling and all wrestling attendance needs.
It's really not been that great. Like the show, for example, where he was on top against Akito had 687. Harashima in March. Judgment. That was very, very good with 1,491.
Yeah, that's a big number for Korakuen.
That's a big number for Korakuen for DDT.
That's another one. Akito, I mean, I love him as a wrestler.
Yeah.
But as a star player, he's like the ultimate undercard guy.
Yeah. The January show with Yuki Onaya and Yuki Ueno on top, 1,120. That's also, for DDT terms, very good. Then they had the Dino match in Shinjuku Face, which did 500.
Oh, that's a big number for them.
The April 7 show, April Fool, did 1,334.
Another good number, although Zach was also there. I think that
Zach was there, of course, yes. But that's big numbers, actually.
All I'm seeing are good stats for him.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, the Takagi one did not draw as much in Shinkiba, but let's look at the most recent one. What are you doing? It didn't have a strong card, no title match. What are you doing on June 30? It almost did 1,000 once again. So you might be right that Yuki Ueno could be the guy.
I think, and again, like, look at who we're talking about here. We're putting him against Akito, Takagi, Dino, not the legendary stars of wrestling. At the end of the day, I would be interested to see the comparisons to other champions they've had in the past, like with his title reign compared to what they were doing. Like, what were they doing a year ago around this time? I wonder.
DT in Kirk. Let's see the Korakuen. I think they were doing around 700 and 800s, right?
Okay, last year in comparison for the Judgment show, that did 1,100, which is less than this year with Ueno, and that was with Hino as champion.
Hino wasn't a good champion.
No, he wasn't a good champion. Yeah, I agree. You're totally right about that. April Fool.
Yep.
531. Ooh, bomb.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, that big upgrade. And that's the thing. Like, when I sat down for this, I thought Anzai...
Sweet Dreams 2023 in comparison to the 1,120 did 777 last year.
I mean, that's evidence right there that they're, and I think that's what you can look at more than anything as well.
Right.
I think that
might be right, yeah.
And from a business attendance, like you can't say so and so was a great number, like just on its own. But I think if you compare it to what they were doing before, you could still learn like stuff from that.
Yeah.
Overall, and I think there was a bigger difference between Ueno and where they were at than Anzai and where they were at. Even though when I sat down, Anzai was my guy. Like I thought, it's like okay, Anzai is the man. Like he's done everything. And his vibe is great. Like, his vibes are immaculate, and his wrestling is spectacular. Like, I would take him as a fan over Ueno. But it's hard to argue with the evidence that you have found on here. That's very hard to determine that he's not the one. Like, that's been the MVP. And he's main eventing their big show in what could very well, I mean, that could be the crowning of a new main eventer for them as well, if they play their cards right with Mal.
Yeah, their cards right. Business has been good for DDT, and Ueno has been vital to that. So,
and he got a lot of votes. You know, he was the third place guy, but behind Anzai and Kaito. I mean, Kaito dominated, so it's really like a moot point. But I think I'd have to go with Ueno.
I guess so. The evidence is still there, so. Might be swinging around.
And he's a great wrestler. Like, it's not like he's some draw that's not, like having these terrible matches. He's a great wrestler. A lot of people love that Dino match. That's not for me. I fully admit that. But even some non-DDT fans praise that as a great performance by him. And, I mean, the Takagi match is one of the best Takagi matches we've seen in forever. All of his matches he's delivered performance-wise in. And again, Anzai, I love him so much. I don't want to vote against this man because he's.
Yeah, but like I said, the Champion Carnival run has not been good. The title win has been dire. So, Ueno.
That wasn't his fault.
No, but
it did happen. Like you're right. You're right. And like I said, they were already doing pretty good with Nakajima as champion as well. So he got it. It's not like he started off low and then brought them up.
I'm very happy that we did that here because Ueno really is a guy that I feel strongly about, that I enjoy every single time I see him. But somehow he always gets forgotten. So that's good.
Did I change your mind?
You did change my mind. Yes.
Moving off from Naito?
Going to Ueno.
Bumping Naito out of the place. He's got to go max bump out for Tetsuya Naito. But no, I mean, again, I'm really negative on his wrestling right now, and we'll see how it goes. But what you said was not entirely inaccurate, but I just think we've seen the numbers right there that we just went at. Ueno made more of a difference in context at the end of the day. So I would go with that. And Naito did get a lot of love. He was fourth place. Again, I know his fan base will ride with him forever. Like, the LIJ fans. We'll see how well it does. And again, I think we'll have. The great thing, too, about these awards that we're on, one last thing before we get out of here, all of these awards, it's taking place right before a ton of major events.
Yes.
But
that's the beauty of the half-year awards. I mean, we're not looking at July. We're looking back from June to January.
No, that's accurate. But what I'm saying is it's great because we're going to have, tales will be told in the next 2 weeks, pretty much. On this, at the next month at the latest. We can look back at all of these votes a month from now and say, oh, well, no, Dylan, you were wrong. Naito did this huge number, in the final here or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or they could say, oh, Kaito, the Noah show did a great gate. Naito, had this epic main event. And I'm sure that match is going to be fantastic, by the way, him and Yoichi. No, Eastern Lariat, the fans were right on Kaito as the MVP. Or maybe Ueno does a huge number, and he has this great match, and Anzai is always awesome. Everyone loves him. The thing is, that's the great thing about Anzai is that there's no real argument against him. Ultimately, are things that he's done wrong. There's been questionable booking, for sure. But he's really made it work. Despite us not liking that, ultimately, he's gotten through it because he's indestructible. He's so damn great that he can make anything work. And the hope of All Japan, I would say, that is one thing I would say in his favor, is that
there's a lot of hope about All Japan for the near future. And I think DDT, they're still kind of in their own zone, kind of like they're in their lane. They've clearly improved from where they were last year, but I don't think that there's like this vantage point that they're going up. But on the other hand, they're running Ryogoku and All Japan's not. So, like that's another thing that, it's interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting points you can make for the MVP, but
Yeah.
Thank you to all the listeners out there.
Definitely.
Who did a lot. Kento, Sari, all had good showings as well to be in there. Go got some interesting votes, which I thought was kind of interesting because he's kind of been on the back burner, even in Noah. But hey, they're like you, Strigga. Limit Break is where it's at.
Limit Break, yeah, baby.
Yeah, Yuma, Zach, Shun also charted. Shun's an interesting one because I do think, like, if you took him out of Dragon Gate, the company is vastly different. Like, even though I don't think his performance has necessarily been as strong as Uedo or Onside, he's not been in the main event. But I think if he were to, if he had retired on December 31st, the landscape changes so much. And I think that is worth mentioning with him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, it's been a great ride once again, Dylan.
Hell yeah.
Like you said, I want to thank everybody that voted. Even though we disagreed with the Kaito pick that a lot of you voted for, I think it's still interesting to look at all of the votes that you gave us that we can discuss. It's, like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite shows of the year, and just a great ride every single time.
And I fully admit that could be an us issue with Noah as well, because Noah got a ton
Sure.
of love. And clearly the fans are like, again, this is live research pretty much for us, telling it like, no, Eastern Lariat, Noah is better than you guys are saying it is. Like, and maybe and I go back and listen to us after Wrestle Magic. We were very positive on that show with the All Rebellion formation and everything. We gave it a fair chance. Like, I don't think we've been unfair to Noah. But maybe we'll look at it with a new vision, thanks to the fan base here, letting us know, hey, Noah, they have improved. They have done good. Kaito is the man. And again, like I said, it'll be live stuff here, because if he loses the belt in a couple of days, I think a lot of these votes will kind of, like, a lot of these points may go to dust. But if he wins and has a great match, that's going to be a point for Kaito and his supporters as well. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he has a great run, because I just think he's an amazing wrestler. If I were ranking, we saw that 30 for 30 vote or whatever, Voice of Wrestling or whatever had a couple weeks ago, and he was the number one winner of the 30 under 30 on there, like, of everybody, even like the American people, which I thought, that's, again, it's a stunner, and I think it just goes to show, I think maybe we have kind of underrated Noah's influence a little bit, and I think that's something we have to be open-minded to, at the end of the day. That's how disagreements work. I have never said me or Strigga are infallible. Like, we can be wrong at the end of the day, but still, though, I love seeing it. I love the surprise votes. I love the amount of votes, and I love doing the show with you and getting all of our votes out as well. So thank you so much for that.
This has been the Eastern Lariat for this time. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.
Sayonara.